Gregory Braille,
I'm here.
Phil Burton,
Here.
Tony Carrasco,
Here.
In-Young Cho, not here yet. Larry Klein,
Here.
Nadia Nayak,
Here.
Keith Reckdahl,
Not here yet.
not here yet. Dave Shen,
Here.
Carrie Templeton.
Here.
Okay, great.
Great, awesome. Okay, with that, staff, do we have any updates? I don't think so, but just want to give you an opportunity.
Yeah, just a brief update is that we received this letter from PTAC that was attached as an informational to the agenda today. And just that was the only new information that we got.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, that means we can move to oral communications. So this is if any member of the public wants to speak to an item that is not on the agenda or not about the main report that we're writing, then now would be the time for you to please raise your hand and speak. Well, I'm not seeing anybody. Okay. So I think with that, we can move to agenda item number 4. And 4 and 5, I think we can take together because we're at the end. I did want to note for members of the public, you have the, each agenda has that final report chapter tracker. So everyone can see what the latest versions of all of the chapters are. So that's how you guys can follow along at home. I know it's sort of confusing at this phase of the process. Did anyone have, so, I mean, we might as well talk about what was turned in and kind of what happened. So I think there was some confusion inadvertently by the way that I highlighted something in the comments. So we can look at Churchill chapter 3.2 first, and I can bring it up on the screen so everyone can see.
Nadia, do we want to take public comment on this first?
Sure. I wasn't sure if we want to take it at the end or we wanted to take it at the beginning. Does anybody
Generally,
have
you
a
want to
preference?
take public comment at the beginning.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. If any member of the public wants to comment on the report, this is actually the public comment is actually a continuation of the last meeting as well. So if anybody wants to speak now, if you could raise your hand, now would be the chance to speak to items, basically 4 and 5. It's usually just 5 that we take public comment on. Again, if you want to give any public comment, you hit the raise hand button. Okay. Looks like we don't have any public comment, but In-Young has joined us. Hi, In-Young.
Hello. Sorry.
Okay, so thank you for that, guys, reminding me about the public comment. So I'm going to start with chapter 3, because I think that's where most of the conversation is, the Churchill chapter. Let me share my screen here. And a reminder that when I share screen, I can't see if you raise your hand. So it's always good if you audibly tell me that you want to talk, because I just can't see all of you. I can't make my window big enough to see you all. So please feel free to signal to me. I'm trying to make this thing as big as I can. Okay, so I realized that when I sent this out, I put my comment on the title rather than on the first paragraph. And I think that that led to some confusion because XCAP members thought I had edited the report without tracking changes in the main report. And I did not. I only edited this first paragraph. Everywhere else in the report, all the changes are tracked. So that may have been the largest part of the confusion for everybody. But, you know, we can start right at the beginning and go line by line to make sure that we've got this right. We did this the last time. What I did was, per my memo, I actually went back and we had taken 3 separate votes on Churchill. One was on the closure itself. The second one was on the mitigations. And the third one was on the bike ped option, the preferred bike ped option. So what I did was change this first paragraph. So I should have highlighted this first paragraph and not the summary of actions title to show you that this was the paragraph that I changed to reflect that vote. So I will let Dave and you guys, let me know what your changes were with regard to that, because I think you guys thought I changed the whole document and I didn't. And so I'm happy to go through line by line on all the comments.
Okay, we just remove the comments. So
Well, yeah, I
Resolve.
just want to make sure there's nothing substantive. Did you have any, is this section okay? Someone added the word language deleted. I think that was Larry trying to indicate that this is where the change was. And so that's correct. So I'll remove that if that's okay, because obviously that word doesn't go in there.
Adi, I'm not sure if it might make it more clear just the way you just explained it about having 3 votes. It might make that first paragraph more clear, but I'm okay with the way it is.
So we had a 6-3 vote with the no votes being these 3 people. Do you see it? Let me see if I can make the font bigger so it's a little easier for you guys to read.
No, yeah, yes, I see it.
Okay,
It implies the 3 votes, yes.
okay.
I think if I may paraphrase Tony, he might be suggesting that the introductory messaging you just spoke out loud would provide useful context in this way.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Thanks.
Sorry, the what I just described was kind of the changes that were made to the document, but I don't think we want to write that in the document. Am I missing? What am I missing?
Yes, let me try here. So you said the Churchill Avenue voting involved 3 motions, 3 separate motions.
Okay.
And then here you list them. So having an opening sentence that says there were 3 different motions and then
Okay,
followed by
sure.
what you have
Gotcha.
here, which is
I see
list
what you're
those
saying.
motions. I would also like to just
I'm
jump in.
sorry, I have trouble with that because the main vote is the closure, and I don't have any problem by saying something like after that first sentence, there were 2 additional motions considered.
Okay, I have
Yes,
here,
I think
XCAP
that's
voted
good.
voted for additional mitigations. I think so we could say voted further.
That's okay with me too, but
Okay, and then,
the lead, I was always taught lead sentences really count, and that's the main takeaway from that paragraph.
okay. So there were 2 other motions. Is that what you want me
The
to?
mitigation was part of the closure vote, Larry.
Well, then
They went hand in hand.
well, then it
Actually,
wasn't a 7-2.
Technically, it was 3 votes. One was the closure, which was 6-3. Then was the mitigations, which was 7-2, and then was the bike closure, the bike option 2, which was 7-0-2 as well.
Right.
That's why there's-
I guess I just recalling it differently than Larry about how they're connected.
So we voted at the September 2nd meeting to close. And then on the September 9th meeting, we discussed a whole bunch of mitigations. And then at the September 16th meeting, we voted to have the mitigation section and then the option 2 and suggestions for mitigations and or areas of study for option 2 as a 3rd section. So all of this, I just literally basically copy pasted from the transcripts and put it in here.
I think we're agreeing on that. I think the addition or not adding context is what we're discussing now, right?
Okay. I'm happy. Anyone who wants to suggest language, I'll just start typing and then we
Just
can.
everything you just said is not quite captured. Is it in the footnotes?
Okay. XCAP.
It might be, but you said, well,
I think that clears it.
okay. I also wanted to just set the tone for what we discussed when creating this draft. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, and that'd be great. Thank you, Carrie.
Sure. So I went back and rewatched the tape, the video of our meeting where we discussed this because as we mentioned last week, the previous draft didn't really have that same feel of of what we discussed, and some of us were remembering it differently than how it was described. So we went back and tried to figure out what was kind of at the root of that, and we watched the videos. I believe Nadia also reread the transcripts, and we found that because the discussion spanned several weeks and several motions, that was probably the root of the confusion and the different perspectives. And so the team redrafted it to be more reflective of the discussion that we did have in the meeting, and then the votes as they took place. And we're tried to be a little bit more efficient in describing where was the minority discussion versus what we all talked about as a group, and owning that we did have a discussion on various perspectives, which is important because, you know, for the future, we want people to know that we did examine this as thoroughly as possible. So I think that we came up with a good proposal. I'm really looking forward to the feedback. I just want to let you know that we think we got to the root of where the confusion was, and hopefully we can find a way to include all the different perspectives that we're sharing.
Thank you. I would also add that what we did was in going back and reading the exact transcript, I was able to just copy paste from the stuff that was on the screen when we voted and put that in. So much of the sort of new section, besides the minority opinion, is actually just a cut and paste from the transcript that we had voted on. So we'll go through those now. I also wanted to acknowledge that Keith is here. Hi,
Okay,
Keith.
Nadia?
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem listing all this here, but like the first voting, you know, we know what we're voting for you because first sentence, first paragraph is like we evaluate alternative. These are three, then we voted for. And second, one of the additional mitigation. So the one additional mitigation, I don't know at this point what the additional mitigation is.
So this is just the summary section. When we get into the section that shows where the votes were, you'll see them. So the mitigations, actually, if we scroll further down, that's what was.
I know, but the person who reading it is like cannot understand when they read that sentence, because you have to say what the mitigation is, because just like you have listed three things that you're voting it for. I don't know.
We do an internal link in there. I think that's a really good point. We could ask the editor to do an internal link from
Sure.
here down to the.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a great idea.
point.
I think In Young's point though is well taken. The additional mitigations ought to be defined.
Yeah.
Maybe
are.
sending one for additional mitigations, we'll put it in quotes as described below.
Okay.
So it's not to be confused with the mitigations proposed by the consultant.
Yep. In quotes, or should I capitalize it? I'll give it the name of the section.
A second motion that addressed or specifies additional mitigation specified in the section below passed by a 7-0 vote.
Identified mitigations beyond what the consultants proposed, right?
Yes.
Oops.
Is it beyond or in addition to?
Sure, in addition to, that's fine.
And you can put in parentheses somewhere C below, or C, and this is where you put additional mitigation section below.
Yep.
Capitalize.
I have a note here on the side because I'll do that with right here, this comment here. I'll do that with once we know exactly where it is and what page, because I think we can do it as a link.
Okay, you know, my comments, you can just say resolve on the previous two. Yeah,
Okay.
and then that one too. Okay.
Dave, did you want to speak to your comments? at the top here? I can't tell if Dave
Yeah,
froze.
I was looking for a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
This is, oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Nadia, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I was looking for a good time to start, and maybe this is a fine time as any. So I guess my comments are kind of process-wise, like how we got here. I was a little taken aback by the fact that the document was edited, and I didn't know that was going to happen, because some of that relates to how much effort and how much time we've spent to get to this point. And as we drive, towards, I remember about 2-3 weeks ago asking for setting a milestone. Can we, have one more meeting and try to finish up there, right? So
Nadia, can you again?
settling on all the text of everything else.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear In Young.
Yeah, can you expand his comments? Show
Yep.
more. Yeah, thank you.
What did you say?
She
I
wanted
want
to
to
see
see
your
your
comments.
comments. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Dave, I think we
Just
lost
hit show
you.
more on my comment. Oh, or is it
Yeah,
low?
we did. I think you're a little delayed. We can hear you though.
Sorry about that. I'm on Ethernet and I don't know why it's, no, okay. Maybe I'll turn my video off, so that'll help things. I don't know why it's doing me like that. Okay, so so in driving towards some closure, right, we want to keep this text as unchanging as much as possible. So I was taken aback by the edits that happened here where we were working really hard to get there. And so it would have been nice to have known and gotten notified that this document was going to change. And especially, every time when we would close on our previous meetings, we would always say, oh, so-and-so now owns this or is going to do something with it. Now, I understand that you want to try something or whatever, but still, it would have been just nice to know that. Because then when we got it back, I'm not sure what changed. Because at least when Larry looked at it, he said there were changes actually in here. So then we had to actually put stuff back, and those weren't tracked. There was a paragraph under the traffic, vehicular traffic is mitigated section that was added by Larry as a response to the minority position. And that was something you and Larry had worked on into this document. So it was really hard, and I'm not even sure we were able to figure out like what changed in this document or not. So that's disconcerting to not know. And I haven't had a chance to take this document and figure out a Unix diff program or a Microsoft Word to actually take a look at, what did change, because that's what lawyers do, right? When you get the document, get a contract back, like there's no green stuff, right? There's no underlines and things. So I don't know if you weaved edits, you meaning whoever the authors were. I'm not saying it's one person, but potentially there could be 2 or 3 actually, or 4 maybe with Carrie involved. But we couldn't really tell, like, did any of this stuff change? So that kind of raised like some insecurities about, like, well, what happened here? I don't even know what happened.
Yeah, I think that the problem is because we give it to Sarah and then we get a new copy, so we can't really track the history. That is the problem.
Well, so if I can just adjust your concerns, Dave, the intent was not to necessarily edit this document at all. But what happened was when we were discussing with Carrie, what the feelings were of the minority, and she's like, well, I felt that too. I could have sworn that was in the motion. And I said, and so we looked through the document and we realized, it doesn't really say it in that way. So that's what led us to go back and read the original transcripts. And that's when we discovered that there was discrepancies, that we hadn't actually cut and pasted exactly what we had voted on that was in the transcript and then the additional notes. So the challenge here is really a Brown Act challenge. Once we were a group of 4, I'm not allowed to telegraph or communicate to you in any way that I am making other substantive changes to the document, because that would be us then having a cross conversation, not in public, about what's going on. So I just want to assure you that nothing that occurred was anything that was intended to sort of be nefarious or hide anything. It was really just a function of we're working with the four of us and the four of you were working in the same document, right? Second is I think we thought we were making the process shorter by inserting the minority opinion directly into the section where it's supposed to go. Up until now, it's been separate because we're towards the end and we wanted to be able to see it in the section where it was going to show up. The comments that were added, the traffic paragraph that you're talking about, what was in the edited document. I only took whatever was the final edit that we had described at the end of the last meeting and amended that. And the only one where I didn't track the changes was the minority section because it had changed so completely that it just made it look unreadable. And so I tried to delineate that. And this first section, which I inadvertently highlighted the title, which made for you guys, I think, signal to you that I had changed the entire document. And I didn't. I just changed that first paragraph where the voting analysis or description was. So I think it was really just a misunderstanding that's kind of caused by us not being able to sort of talk back and forth with one another. And I just want to, reiterate that there should not be anything removed from what was there last week unless it's noted in track changes. And from what I've gone through it again, they're all in there. So, but I want to go through line by line because I don't want you guys to feel at all like something shady happened. I understand it's confusing. It's very hard to track this many versions. And so we're doing our best, but I just did want to reiterate, it wasn't that we tried to take back control of the document. And by the way, we went through this exercise last week. So we all edited this document together last week. So all of the edits that we went over last week are in this document. That was the basis of what was amended. Does that make sense?
It does, except that
I can't
I
see it.
inserted a huge paragraph that Larry had written as a response to the minority sitting in that traffic section. We'll get to that part of the document later. But
okay, if it came out for any reason, it was not supposed to, and I think I see what thing you're talking about, and I see it on mine, but I'm fine with it. But let's go line by line. But no matter what, the most important thing is like everybody's doing their best with this very complicated way of addressing it, and so I just want to be really clear. It serves no purpose for anybody to try to ramrod through something with the group. So I think it's really important that we go through line by line, and I definitely want to address any concerns anybody has.
But it can't be possibly a Brown Act violation to notify and say, hey, we'd like to work on the Churchill document, but not say what it is. Is it, or is it?
If I go in to explain to, yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
The Brown Act says if it's an agendized item, there's a limit to the number of people that can discuss that agendized item.
Even a
So
notification on work on a certain document?
that would be my read. I'm not an expert, but even so, like it's every chapter is ours. I mean, I think that this line of discussion is probably distracting from your deeper meaning, and your if I can paraphrase what I think your deeper meaning is here, is that you were surprised to see changes made to parts that when we left last meeting we weren't expecting, and that you're frustrated when you read it and aren't seeing the same kind of annotations that you were expecting. Is that right?
Well, yeah, when I saw what Sarah had passed back to us, there were some changes or comments and stuff sitting in there, but it looked like some things had been removed too, without changes tracked.
If that happened, it would have been an error or a mistake, and it's good that we're talking about it now. We couldn't have possibly talked about it before. It wouldn't have been.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's good to hear. So,
Yeah.
But then the other part is, it's just the way this whole thing is moving was at two separate docs. Right? It's like, and so if you take that path, you can kind of say, well, these are two different things. Yeah, they'll be joined at some point, but to go, I'm going to smash them together without some kind of notification, like it's been treated as two separate things up till now, right? So that's
the
also
work
part
has
of
been split in two, but I think that it's all happened in the same meeting with the same body of people. So I think,
Yeah, and it was meant to go in that section. I mean, it's always been, I thought, and I think that's fair to say the three of us or the four of us thought we were at the end. This section has to get inserted. Let's put it all in there so we can make all the changes in a single doc that everybody is going to look at. And when we left the last meeting, my understanding was that you four were going to work on any additional language you wanted to put into the report to rebut the minority position. And we, the minority, were going to work on reworking our minority so that it was appropriate and had a better tone in it and had substantive changes, which is what we tried to do.
Okay.
Give me sorry, 1 second. My dog needs to get out of the room. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
Because I put comments, one revision before. I
Oh,
never
sorry.
put my comments. Oh, like for me, I put some comments. I don't know, maybe it was too late to give it to Sarah, but 2 weeks, week before that, I put a comment. I don't know, I never saw my comments discussed or disappeared from the version you took last year to discuss did not have my comments, but that was okay. And I put this comment this time. So why was it that comment disappeared?
I have no idea where you submitted comments to Sarah. We went through in the meeting and went through everybody's comments.
Yeah.
So they should be there. But I'm
Let's
happy
move
to
on.
continue to go through because I just, my intent again is just, this is everybody's report and we just need to make sure it reflects what all of us want it to say. So, I'm sorry that there's this much confusion, but I'd rather we go through whatever substantive changes or omissions or anything you feel, was removed, or if you have a comment, let's just go through them. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, and just to finish off, I have number 4 and 5 there.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll talk about 4 probably later on, that representations were made on what the majority meant and they weren't actually accurate. And so we changed those back. We'll talk about those. And just a note that's saying, I'm disappointed this thing's going to go on for probably another 2 meetings, I think, given the state of it.
I hope that that's not correct. So why don't we get through those and let's see if we can work through them. I think we're closer than you might think. I think my mistake sort of confused everybody and set a tone of suspicion that I truly regret. But I hope we can go through them now.
Yeah, we got you, Nadia. Just joking.
Yeah, because all I wanted was to have more meetings. Anyway, okay, all right. With that, Dave, if it's okay with you, I'll resolve this comment.
Leave it for now until we end.
Sure, okay, that's fine. Okay, so back to this paragraph. A second motion that identified mitigations in addition to what the consultants proposed passed this much, and I have a note here down here with the comment that I will work with the editor to put a hyperlink to that section. And then of the
Did you say they were 3 separate days, Nadia? Because if so, you should specify that, what the dates were of each
Okay,
motion, so people
sure.
can look it up.
Actually, it's footnoted. So like the 2 refers and the 3 refers to the dates of the meetings. You see down here below.
Oh, it's in the URL. I see.
Yeah.
The first footnote has the dates separately.
My first footnote, is actually up at the super top, but I can put in dates if people feel strongly. I just thought it was more detail than they needed. At the end of the day, this is actually just a summary.
I feel strongly because if you do have disagreement and people want to refer back to it, it's
Sure.
nice to know what the date was.
Okay, XCAP voted to recommend the closure with mitigations on 9/2/20. And then here it's on 9/16/20. Oops, yep, 20. And then again, voted. Did I get that right?
They were on the same day?
Yes, those last 2 were on the same tab.
Thanks.
Okay.
The option 2.
Yeah.
So we voted on bike and tunnel, pedestrian tunnel, and for option 1 and 2, we choose 2. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So that was, but there is no indication that option 2 is related to closure.
This whole section is the Churchill Avenue closure section, right? So it says,
No, that section is not Churchill Avenue closure section. This is a
Yes.
summary of action.
right, but under the Churchill Avenue chapter.
I know, but the paragraph that we voted for option 2 is the base option 2 of Churchill closure option.
Okay, I'm happy to add it.
So this goes back to our earlier comments about having an introductory sentence that ties it all together. If we don't want it, that's fine. We've added all this here. But these 3 motions exist together, right? These additional mitigations are to be sent to council along with, as part of the first closure recommendation, and the bike recommendation is also part of the mitigations package. So we were further defining the mitigations. And I think that's the point.
Do you think we need another sentence to say that? And you want to give me language for it? I'm ready to type.
I did earlier, it was not typed because Larry dismissed it. So Larry, are you satisfied that we've captured that these 3 motions should be sent to council together, or do we need introductory language?
Larry, you're muted.
Larry, can you hear us?
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
Oh, so Carrie is saying that she had proposed an introduction sentence to this, but you were not comfortable with that. Do we still feel like this? I think she thinks that we could still use a clarifying sentence here, or
To
is
me, the paragraph's fine as it is.
So it's
I wouldn't
clear
have put
that
the
all
dates in,
3
but
of
that's
these
okay.
are further, that votes 2 and 3 were further clarifications to our first motion. That's clear to everyone?
I'm having trouble understanding you, Carrie.
just move a little closer to your mic, I think, Carrie.
They're in my ears. I'm
Oh,
as close as I'm gonna
I
get.
guess you can't move your ears.
So is it clear that the motion 2 and 3 are meant to further clarify and explain what we meant by vote 1? So all 3 go to council together. That is the question.
They're all in the same paragraph. Certainly makes sense. That's the way I read them.
Would it be more
Anybody else?
clear if we made that bullets instead of in the paragraph, so we know there's three separate motions?
If we can't agree on this, we're going to be here till June.
Larry,
We've
you
not got
keep
past
saying
one
stuff.
paragraph.
When you say stuff like that, it really does sound dismissive. I know you don't mean it that way. You want us to move on. I just want to be clear with what we send to council, that motion 1 was closure, motions 2 and 3 explain what we mean by closure. If it's clear as the paragraph form, bullet form, I don't care. I just want to make sure it's clear.
I would leave it just as it is.
Okay, I think if you're okay, I added a sentence that says XCAP had 3 votes. XCAP voted to recommend closure with mitigations by a 6-3 vote. XCAP then had 2 subsequent votes with
No, I am not fond with that. Let's have a vote on it, Nadia. Let's move along. I move we delete the first 4 words there.
okay.
Is it necessary to have?
You're saying the paragraph already says you got 3 votes.
I just realized there's some repetitive language there. I think it's I'm okay either way. If we really need to have a vote on this, I mean, do we care that badly?
I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish here.
I think what Carrie wants
Frankly,
to.
I'm beginning to think it's an attempt to. I'm reading this as an attempt to water down what we did.
Larry, that is totally unfair. I'm sorry. I need to call you on that.
Saying it doesn't mean it, Carrie. Doesn't make it so.
What I am trying to say.
I'm reading the language.
What language I have proposed has not been written, so you cannot be reading it. What I'm suggesting is to make sure it's clear that these 3 motions are a package, that motions 2 and 3 clarify motion 1. If we don't want to write it down, that's fine. I've said my piece.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I think
Let
like.
me, one more time to clarify, Carrie. There were 3 votes. They're not of equal weight.
Correct.
The
I
key
read
vote
it
was
as
to
vote
close.
1, vote 1A, and vote 1B. That's how I read it.
well, I'm not sure that I read it that way because we voted differently on each of them. So I think that as it stands, it literally identifies exactly what happens. I think maybe we're overthinking it because we know too much. But I think anyone who's reading this will say, okay, they took a vote for the closure, they took another vote for the mitigations, and they took a third vote for the option 2 of the bike alternative. Option 2, actually, bike ped alternative.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah.
I think we voted closure. Closure had additional options, so we need to vote option 1 or 2. We had to do that. And then third, because some of you guys didn't like the closure and then need to additional mitigation, so we voted another one. Isn't that the sequence of that vote has gone?
Yes. Do you think that this paragraph represents that, or do you think we?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So you're with Carrie. Anybody else? Keith, Dave, Tony, Phil, Greg?
No comments.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're discussing.
Me neither.
I think
Okay.
it looks good the way it does right now.
Okay.
I would like to see what Carrie has to propose.
Yeah, Carrie, do you want to dictate a sentence to me? I'm happy to put it in there, and then we can take a vote on that because I do want to make sure that it's super clear. And
Yeah, I just hope you don't feel we need a copy of Robert's rules of order now.
yeah, no,
Guys, I had no idea that sharing my perspective on this would end in motions like this.
No, it's okay.
And
I
all
think
the other comments are just comments that we discussed, but I'm happy to share with you a sentence that we can discuss, and if we want to vote on it and at the end of that, that's fine. All I was saying was that the ability to pull these 3 together in context so that someone doesn't inadvertently take it out of context when it goes to council. So we said closure with mitigations, and then we defined those mitigations. And so if you don't pull those 3 things together, it's easy to take it out of context. So my suggestion was, simply saying that we had.
so. Do you think this part of the sentence captures that?
XCAP then had 2 subsequent votes to define the mitigations. That would be sufficient.
Well, one was to define the mitigation. One was to define the bike ped preference, right?
Isn't that one of the mitigations?
Phrase
Phrase it however you want. Either
Yeah.
way, that's fine.
Okay. To define. How's that?
That's how I remember it.
That's better. Thank you.
Yep. Larry, you okay with that? It's here.
Mhm.
Okay. 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 Deep breath, everybody. We're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. Okay. Anybody else on this sentence? Everybody okay with that one?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to move forward. Okay. So here, I don't think we have any, there was no edits.
I have an edit on page 7.
Okay. Tell me.
So under facilitate movement,
Mm-hmm.
I would lose the words off pedestrians. Here's the issue. I think it's implying that we have significantly enhanced the pedestrian experience, and that is not true. So I would suggest that where it says, on the other hand, the movements of pedestrians and cyclists, you should delete the words of pedestrians and, because it's better for cyclists, but not for pedestrians.
Well, I have a question. How is it not better for pedestrians if they no longer have to wait at the crosswalk?
Because they have to go down a tunnel that's, in my opinion, not that safe. It has 200 feet of, 100 feet of tunnel that's only 10 feet high, 12 feet wide at the max. I don't know if it's even 12 feet wide, and 100 feet deep. Even the rendering shows some fake lights at the end. You're not going to see light at the end of that tunnel.
That sounds so depressing, Tony.
It is.
Okay, so, but I think it is, so maybe not significantly enhanced. Would you want, is there another word here that we can, because I think it's more efficient?
No, it's
They're more,
you can access it for sure, but it's not significantly enhanced.
okay, so I'm proposing instead more efficient. Is everyone,
If you can say what efficient means,
like, it's
you can
faster?
get there.
Yeah, they're not having to wait for a light.
I don't think it's faster. It's about 3 more blocks of travel.
No, it's not. This is in the Churchill closure.
Yes.
When the bike ped tunnel is literally in the middle of Churchill, the
Yes.
bikes and peds now just keep walking. They're not going 3 blocks. It's not like the Kellogg one.
I see. Yes, that's true.
Okay.
So more efficient. Yes.
Is there anyone who objects to that change?
It's
Okay.
a comment.
Yeah.
I think it came from the matrix. So any language we change here is,
Can someone do me the favor of looking at the matrix while I keep typing? and
yeah, I
we'll-
don't remember what the matrix said. It might have changed from then, but that's where all this text comes from. So
Okay.
I don't
good
know
to
if it means we should do something about that or not.
Hey, Ripon, if you're there, would you mind checking the matrix for us as we continue, and then we can come back to this page? I'm gonna make a note that it's page 7.
I would
Yes.
add more efficient and safer. Or
Okay.
safer and more efficient.
Well, let's have Ripon confirm whether or not, if it's a copy paste from the matrix, it's a trouble for us to change it, because
Well,
then,
I don't care about that because the matrix is not an official document of ours. It's a
Okay.
reference.
Yeah,
okay,
I think you XCAP can deviate from what matrix says because that's
Okay.
your report and you are taking parts of what matrix says if that's applicable.
okay. So how's that? More efficient and safer?
I'm good with that.
Just from a linguistic standpoint, I think it sounds better if you say the more efficient than put safer before more efficient.
Yes, I agree, yes. I also propose that we add here bike ped option 2, because we're just saying option 2, but they may not know what that is.
On the next paragraph, I have another edit. So this, I'll sort of explain it when we get to page 12, but I would suggest that we add after modes, thus removing it from neighborhood streets. So what the viaduct does is it handles more volume of cars. And so cars get eliminated from driving through the neighborhood to get to where they want to go. And you'll see that in the tables when we get to page 12.
Okay, I think this one just responds directly to the criteria for moving across the tracks. So maybe in page 12, it's the better place to put it, Tony, because this is kind of specifically about just moving east-west and not necessarily about the additional, because that's sort of another proposed additional benefit, right? Is that it prevents
Yes,
neighborhood
I'm okay with that.
side traffic. Okay. Anybody else?
Only in the sense that it increases traffic on the roads that are right at there, like Churchill and well, Alma isn't affected, but Churchill for sure.
Yep.
So it's a plus and a minus 2 different ways.
Well, this thing says facilitate movement. So the problem is that they're asking for, like, does it inhibit or not? Okay, everybody okay with that? Before I move on? Okay.
Just one comment there, yeah, here. I have a comment here where it says 250 to 300 feet. Is that at an 8% slope?
This came off the matrix. So whatever's on the matrix thing.
So it's an 8% slope then.
I think, Ripon, could you confirm for us? Sorry to keep hitting you up, Ripon, but I didn't bring my paper copy of the
I'll take a look at it. And
matrix. Okay, awesome. I'll just make a note here.
Just to confirm that the first language was not from the matrix for
Okay.
the created moment, so it was kind of interpretation of what was said in there.
Okay, great. And then do you have this one on the right away?
I'll take a look at it right now.
Okay, cool. Okay, I keep scrolling.
So minimize disruption.
Yep.
We should probably sort of define how long that duration is. Each alternative have different.
They're in here. Say 2 years.
Yes, I know, but it's not, for instance, the viaduct, and I'm not advocating for the viaduct would have a much smaller time of closure because you can build it without closing it and then close it only for that time when you're building over that street. I'm not advocating for the viaduct, but it should get more refined down the road to understand more carefully what the logistics are and the alternate traffic plan during that short time or a long time with each alternative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, this one came from the matrix. So do we have more detailed stuff in the matrix?
Probably not. It doesn't go to calibrating that close.
Well, so then here, resources.
We just probably need to say that, it's needs to be refined because we don't know how much closure time there is with each alternative. We've got construction time, but we've not got the intersection closure time.
I think it may have been something in the matrix.
I don't think there's.
Let's see.
think-
I just
don't
looked at
think
the
it's in the-
matrix, but maybe it's in the, I mean, I just looked at the
You were in
fact
the
sheet,
fact
but let me look at the matrix. Yeah. So this is Meadow Charleston. And then we have Chill. And then that was construction. It's right here. So Tony, this is just a copy paste from the matrix.
Yes, I understand. It just talks about total construction time, not the closure of the intersection under every alternative.
Okay.
We just need to ask council to refine that, to find out how much time the actual intersection gets closed, because that's the impact.
Well, so the point of I hear what you're saying, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do about this section, because all this section is describing the 3 options versus council criteria. And so this is not a section where we're asking for further areas of study. We're literally just recanting how the 3 alternatives compare and contrast with each other.
So maybe we should put it in additional information needed. We need to know how long the intersection is closed for, not the total.
I mean, I think that's what council will look at when they look at these alternatives, right? They're going to look at comparing all of these. I'm not sure we have to go through the trouble of saying, well, there's a distinction here.
And Chair, I like to add that more detail about each impact to each intersection of the area within the subsequent phases. This is too preliminary to know exactly how much, where the detour is, how much the intersection would be impacted and how long at each location. So there was like an overall estimates, but not a full detailed estimate on the impacts of each location or intersection. Also on the previous note regarding the 250 to 280, the fact sheet is at 230 feet at 8.5%. So
I think we actually had, there was one meeting, let me go back here.
On the fact sheet, it says 230 feet for 8%, and I think there may have been an additional discussion to extend it to 5%, then it would move back by an additional 50 feet or so. So there was some discussion on that.
Yeah, so at the meeting where we were discussing option 1 and option 2, this was the additional presentation that you gave us, Ripon.
Correct.
And
Mhm.
so I think maybe the answer was on this document, right?
Yes, it could. Yeah, what I'm saying is it's probably from additional information that was provided
Okay,
to the matrix.
so is it fair to say that, so what would be the right thing to put here to make sure that this accurately represents what is being looked at? This would be at 8%?
Yes, that's at 8%.
Okay. So
But I
let's see.
think we're recommending 5%.
Yep. Most significantly, this option's bike pedestrian tunnel on Kellogg would require the elimination on both sides of Kellogg, along with approximately 250 to 300 feet from Alma at an 8% grade.
Yeah,
Okay, I will leave that part there, Tony, because in a different section, we do say that they need to look at flatter grades.
Yeah.
So we've
Right.
addressed it elsewhere.
right.
Okay. Okay. And then are we good to keep going? I'm waiting for someone to holler at me. I'm on page
On the
11.
local street, page 10.
Okay.
So under local street circulation impacts,
That's not on page 10. Page 10 or? Oh, 11.
oh, 11.
Okay.
So I wanted, it's just a question about, should we remind the reader that construction during incurable queues is going to be pretty exasperating? But it's a flag that we need to sort of continuously remind council that construction during incurable queues is going to be really difficult.
I'm fine if the group is okay. We could add a line here that says the more construction projects that take place as traffic gets worse, the more complicated the construction will be, or something along those lines.
Like something like that.
Would that be okay with everybody? Yes, okay.
What does it mean to say,
Oh, Phil, you muted yourself. Phil, you muted yourself.
all right, what does it mean to say more complicated? Shouldn't we be a little more specific?
Yeah, please, feed me words. Go ahead, I'm all ears. I'll type, you speak.
As Tony said, incurable queues.
Okay, so.
I think that's what he's talking about,
Okay, so.
Yes.
as
Incurable
opposed
queues
to,
may be
let's
compounded.
say, lane closures.
Construction.
What about something like incurable queues may be compounded by construction or during construction?
Yeah,
Right.
something like that. Yeah.
It should be noted that construction projects during construction projects
Yeah, but
will
Carrie,
be-
what you just said implies there'll be incurable queues after construction's over. We hope that's not the case.
No, she's saying there could be unclearable queues while we're still trying to build stuff, I think.
I mean, before we build stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then the phrasing should be incurable queues that are present before construction will only get worse during construction.
Okay, I like that. Okay. Unclearable queues. How about will only further complicate?
Exacerbated, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not saying that there are actually unclearable queues now, are we?
No.
No,
just
if they exist
12
at
trains.
some point, right? Then unclearable queues present before construction, if they're present, not that they are, will only further exacerbate construction issues.
Well, I guess I would say that it would be something along the lines of queues are made worse, and please worse, right, during construction, and they may either
How about that might be
become
present?
less clearable or even unclearable. Right, something like that, because I think they're livable now, but they may become unclearable during construction, or they may be worse, but not necessarily unclearable, right? Like that. I think it's.
How does this unclearable queues that might be present before construction will only further exacerbate construction issues?
It's just that the data that we've been presented show that the uncurable queues, when Caltrain raises their ridership to 12 trains per hour.
Right.
And
unclearable queues
that's
happen
the
at the
data
first
we
level.
have. Yeah, we don't know what happens at 11 or 10 trains. At 12 trains, we know they're uncurable queues.
Well, they're already at 10 and they will go to 12. There's no 11 because they have to add a train in each direction.
Correct,
So,
yeah. But we may want to reference that it's at 12 trains. Yeah, unclearable queues happen only at 12 trains.
how about any unclearable queues present before construction will only further exacerbate construction issues? I think that doesn't say that there are some, but if at some point there were, then that needs to be considered when you think about construction and the duration.
I guess my point is potentially the construction might create unclearable queues too, because of the nature of blocking roads and things.
Well,
So
presumably
it isn't just the trains, right?
they have to mitigate. No, but during construction, you actually have to mitigate for that, right? So you wouldn't have an unclearable queue situation because that would be a Ripon and Philip chime in. But my understanding is that would create a safety hazard. So they actually have to, when there's construction, there will be delays, but they will mitigate to not have queues form because that would be dangerous, right? You can't have that.
I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, I don't think the mitigations will make them go away. It's because if you are reducing the capacity at any intersection because of the construction reduces the Alma lane to one street only, depending on which option or alternative we are looking at. So there's going to be some detours set up and the traffic would have to deviate, but the intersection will be safe, but there could be longer delays.
But is that an unclearable queue? No, because the unclearable queue comes from the train preemption interruption. Presumably you have to,
correct.
During construction, you have to have the signal set up to be able to clear the traffic, even if it takes a while to clear that traffic, but it's not unclearable. It's delayed, but
correct.
different
The
than the
intersection
unclearable.
will always be, there is always going to have an advanced preemption to clear off the signal before the train track, after the train tracks close.
Ripon, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there a way to stay? Maybe you've got a more traffic-y engineer way of saying what we're trying to say. Could you help us with this one?
I would say due to the construction, additional delays will be present and could, I would just put delays rather than unclearable queues in there because we don't know and we are speculating too much here at this time.
Okay. Well, I think it's obvious that if there's construction, there's delays. I think the point that Tony was making though is a different one, which is the longer we wait to do these things, the worse the problem gets.
I didn't imply that, but yes, that's true. I'm just pointing out that it'll be difficult because the queues will get longer and it will exacerbate construction issues.
Okay.
I mean, will be more towards the delay, not towards.
I was wondering about the words construction issues. Are we talking, this is a section on local circulation, not construction. So
local
are we
street
really talking about
circulation
traffic issues
during construction, right? So it's hard because it's murky at best.
But when you say construction issues, it implies that the construction will be impacted negatively, not traffic, if that makes sense.
I agree with Dave.
So
okay.
you might want to change that word.
Construction will also be affected, Dave, because say they're concrete trucks, right? If you put a concrete truck in.
Totally agree. I'm not saying that wouldn't happen. I'm just saying this is a section on local street circulation, and we could argue that we don't really care about what happens to construction. So
I see.
In that sense, right? It's like it's more about what's going to happen to traffic than
I can't change anything here because that was the council's
right
criteria. Actually, it's not actually criteria. This is actually AECOM did like other issues, and this is what they labeled their other issues. So what's your proposed change? Just dictate what you're saying to me. Is it?
My
this
only
in
point is if
traffic-
you put construction as an adjective to issues, then it implies that we're only worried about or talking about effective construction, right? And instead, actually, I think we're trying to say that it would mess up, it would delay traffic further and affect traffic, make traffic worse. Now, I understand that there probably will be construction issues, but that's not what this section's about.
Okay.
Will only worsen during construction?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
No, not there. Second sentence.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder why what you were saying wasn't making sense. I'm like, I don't get where this is going. Okay. Unclearable cues present before construction will only further exacerbate.
That's the word that I've been talking about.
Okay. So now dictate. I'm sorry. I lost my.
Go, Carrie.
Will only worsen
Will only.
during construction.
Okay.
But aren't we speculating that there will be uncurable queues at this time? There's
Oh, we're saying if there were any, then the problem will only get worse. We're not saying there are or there will be. So if there's any present at the time that they finally construct, that they need to, know that it's going to get worse.
But today we don't have it, so why would it have it just before construction?
It's not that it's before construction. It just means that by the time these projects are built in the future, how about instead of before construction, any unclearable queues present by the time these projects are built?
I mean, that's ridiculous. We don't even have it today, and then you're anticipating it will happen then.
No, but that.
Well, in Young, it's reasonable to anticipate what conditions will be like by the time construction starts. Nobody thinks this is happening tomorrow.
Yeah, and this was actually what the traffic consultant said. This is the whole point of the project. The reason that we are doing the grade separations is because there will be unclearable queues when Caltrain moves from 10 to 12 trains an hour. That is
Yeah,
a
but
known.
is this obvious? Read the sentence. Uncurable queue present before construction will be only worse. Of course, it will be only worse if there is a construction. Isn't that obvious statement? Why are we putting it here? What's the purpose?
I don't see what's magic about unclearable queues as opposed to just the fact that the original point was if you wait too long and traffic's too bad and the trains are too frequently, construction is going to be very hard.
Yeah,
Isn't that the point that we're trying to get at?
Yeah.
If we wait too long,
Yeah.
things could be aggravated by increased future traffic and increased trains.
I want to introduce a totally different type of thought.
Okay.
This sentence belongs at the end, not at the beginning.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I agree with that. It's almost like a footnote.
Okay.
Because the first sentence, areas in and around construction areas will be impacted, is a lead-in sentence. We then go on to describe what those impacts would be under all three options.
Yep,
And
I agree.
And so this idea that we have about that is now down at the bottom would apply to all three.
I agree.
And say that. That to build these projects, to build any of these alternatives, I would say, Nadia.
How's that?
First line.
Does that work?
Well, to build these projects, it sounds like it's possible to build more than one of them.
Okay, guys, I'm all ears. Just tell me what you want. I'm trying my best here to both edit.
No, I would just say to build any of these projects.
Okay, the longer build to build.
Any,
How about a project? You want that? A project?
No, any of these projects is better, I think.
Okay. I mean,
And at the end of that, I would say due to increased vehicle traffic and increased train schedules.
Yes.
And
Vehicular.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
Why is it increasing traffic?
well,
Just-
because there's more the more trains there are, the more the gates go down, the more traffic there is.
The
And we also
more
expect
uncurable
traffic to
queues.
increase in Palo Alto every year. There's no,
Yeah, well, that's what you're getting at, but like, okay, if that's an assumption, okay, well,
But that's the assumption that forms the basis of this entire process. It's not,
Okay.
it's not
Yeah.
something that we just assumed. That literally is the missive, right? Okay, vehicular traffic is not it because due to increase, how about traffic and trains, just for,
It sort of loses some of my idea that the city will need to plan pretty carefully how we go across the tracks during these constructions, and the uncurable queues are going to increase. So
so Tony, I think this section is to help delineate the differences between those three. I think what you're saying is true for all three.
yes,
And I'm not sure what's the best way to, hopefully this captures what you're saying, right? That,
it captures half of it, but I'm good with that. I mean,
okay, what's the part that's missing? I'm happy to put in whatever you think is missing.
it just, this is a true statement which says that it'll be difficult to build.
I mean, I think it's implied that if it's more complicated future construction, they're gonna have to think hard about it. I hope we don't have to put in there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
hard for you.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I think I got you covered, but
okay.
I don't want to convince you. I want to make sure you feel that I've got you.
Yeah,
covered.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So my next one is on page 12.
Okay.
It's the charts.
Okay.
So here on the charts, it says, if you go up to the first chart, it
Yep.
says existing traffic volumes and future traffic volumes,
Yeah.
but it only talks about LOI, the LOS,
Yeah.
and it's sort of, the volumes are not included. And I'm not sure why it's saying volumes, and the reason why is, I can get to the reason why later,
Mm-hmm.
but it does not include volumes. And you'll see that the volumes that some of the alternatives can handle are much lower than others. Has many implications, such as the cost per car that it's handling. And it has implications for the conclusion that we come to in this section that says that the LOS is better with some alternatives, such as the partial underpass. And it's because it's handling very few cars. And I would suggest that unless we can explain all of that, we should eliminate this conclusion that we have here, that the LOS is better. But it only tells half the story.
Okay.
It does not tell the story that it's handling less cars, therefore the LOS is better.
Did the traffic report have the street volumes in it? Does anyone recall? Because I don't remember seeing those.
Yeah,
There
the
was a
appendix.
section that did. And I don't think it's this one, even though it says traffic volumes.
Guys, I'm going to apologize. You see how it suddenly just zoomed in on me and it's not, I can't see the screen. I can't unzoom. There's a problem with my mouse. So I'm going to stop
Max, do
share for
that.
just a minute.
There's
Yeah.
an arrow there.
Yeah. I don't know why it does
Oh.
it. And I have to reload the page. So let me reload the page.
There's an arrow at the top left-hand corner that you can click and it goes back to the original.
Arrow on the top left. Show me where.
I don't.
Oh, hold on. Let me share my screen again. My apologies. Because this has happened it's my husband's computer and I don't usually work here.
Yeah, you slide it to the left. You can slide all the way, and then you go to those two little arrows.
Which little arrows?
I don't see it on yours.
Welcome to my world. Okay, let me see if I can. If I zoom out, that's a bit better. Does anyone have the traffic study handy and can look at whether there's a page that has the traffic volumes? Because I understand and had the same consternation when we were writing that section.
Chair, I believe the traffic volumes were in the appendix, and so of the original TJKM had, which is an attachment to this report, and so that will be included in the appendix of this document. So all the traffic volumes, existing traffic volumes, are included in the appendix.
Okay, awesome, guys. Let me just I have to leave the screen and then come back into it so that we can see this correctly, because otherwise there's no other way for me to show this to you. About that stupid Zoom thing, my apologies. Okay, now let me get back to it. Okay. For some reason now I don't see the comments. Anyone know where all the comments went? Let me refresh again. There they are. Okay. Clock's giving me a heart attack here. Okay. I don't, yeah, for some reason the comments have not, I don't know what just happened, because they were appearing on the right side and I don't see, like I saw some edits to this page and I don't see them here. Hold on. Today is not the day to give me a headache, Google Docs. Let me look one more time. Okay, there's Dave's comment. So if I scroll, we should see everybody's comments.
There's also a little thingy next to the share button where it'll show you all the comments. Because if you delete the words a comment is attached to, the comments disappear, but they're still there.
Yeah, but I don't think I didn't touch anything and they still disappeared, which is what threw me. Let's see, suggesting I'm in editing mode. Oh, for goodness sakes. View mode. Huh. Okay, well, I could switch to the Word doc version that I have. That might be the only other way to do this.
Are you sure there was comments in this?
I thought I saw comments showing up, but maybe not. Okay, well, let's address this one for now. Let me scroll further down and see if there's other comments. And if there are, okay, I think they were just caching on or loading on the other page. So it looks like it's fine. There wasn't any comments here. So Tony's concern is that this, in an attempt for us to just sort of show what the results of the traffic study are, we showed what the results of the LOS are, but we're not explaining that the closure handles less cars. So it scores well, but it's not, it's also because the traffic has been diverted elsewhere. And so that in some ways having this excerpt is not useful. Any suggestions on how, I mean, we could still have in there, I think that the chart is important for the LOS discussion, but then we could add a sentence that talks about what you're saying, Tony. But I don't have the traffic study in front of me or the, I'd need help adding language, technical language. To
Does that related to minority position?
No, Tony is raising the issue. It's not me raising the issue.
I know, but still that content itself.
No, I mean, this section is the description of how the three alternatives did with the traffic study. And so it's not actually a one side or the other. It's just literally explaining or attempting to summarize the importance of the traffic study with regard to Churchill. And so it's factually stating what the LOS is and how that's changed. But Tony's making a different point about the throughput. I could pull up the traffic study if that makes it easier for us to see.
Nadia, my suggestion is to just add 4 words.
Oh, okay. If it's just 4 words, I'm all ears. Hold on. Because I was worried there.
So
Okay.
as it says, as table 2 shows,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, so the viaduct last under, when you get to viaduct last,
Yeah.
we say because it exports traffic to other intersections.
Okay. And I apologize. I just did that in not track changes mode, but it's right here. This is the sentence we're editing. And I do the rest of it in suggesting mode. Is everyone okay with that? So as table 2 shows, and it went on the partial underpass is least, whatever, and then viaduct because it exports traffic to other intersections. Hey, Phil, it looks like you walked away for a second. I just want to make sure you heard the edit.
Yeah, no,
So-
I needed to get some water.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I just want to make sure you're okay with the 4 words. So, or a couple of words. He said,
Is that true? Like,
yes. So what happens is if you look at the way the intersection gets rated, when you close, the cars go somewhere else. So the intersection gets better because the only part of the intersection you're now measuring is what's left, which is on East Palo Alto side, right? I'm sorry, on the east of Alma side, not East Palo Alto side, east of Alma. And so that's what this is saying. And so he's just making the point that it's because the traffic goes elsewhere.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
That, I mean, that's a factual statement of what it does.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine.
I know, but he's saying that because of it, that the partial underpass is the best. I'm not sure.
No, he's not saying that. This is just the section that talks about how the 3 alternatives did with in the traffic study, and it's explaining how the LOSs are impacted, and it explains why when you close, the score for Churchill gets better because you now basically half the intersection doesn't have cars anymore because they're moving elsewhere.
I know, but in here, he said partial underpass provides the best LOS. With the
But that is exactly what the chart says. It's not an opinion. This is literally what the chart says. Let me make it bigger so we
Okay.
can see it more closely.
So it's like B or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just describing the letters and
okay.
numbers in words. All that is.
Okay.
Hey, just so I'm clear, when you put the modifier because, sounds like it's modifying viaduct. And so is that what you're saying? Is that the viaduct exports traffic to other intersections?
No,
good
it's
point.
in any event, anything. No, sorry, Dave. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So all 3 alternatives export traffic to other intersections. Is that what you're saying then?
No, that's not what he's saying either.
Okay.
Some more than others. You have to
Okay.
look at the volume data sheet.
We should not use the
You
word
should-
it.
Yeah, pronouns are not good.
Yep. Again, yes, agreed.
So wait, I don't know why the viaduct exports traffic to other intersections.
Yeah, it does not. So that's not
The
what we're.
viaduct doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Make it 2 sentences.
That may confuse me too. Yeah. Thanks.
Yep. And so what would the second sentence be? Anyone with traffic language want to help me here?
I don't have it.
One explanation for the partial underpasses better performance,
Better LOS performance.
better LOS performance
For the
is.
partial underpasses. Does that work?
But it is also closure, right? Both of them would export. Viaduct would not.
That is true.
Well, the model is exporting it too, right? It's assuming that the traffic is going elsewhere, isn't it?
It assumes it, but it doesn't tell you what it does. It
Right,
just,
right, right.
it's, yeah.
Well, I think we should just describe the what is in the table, nothing more.
I agree with Inyang. Like this could be footnote if you had to keep it, but like the report should speak for itself.
Just look at the traffic. I mean, you're explaining table 2, so key point, and don't add any other assumptions or feelings.
You can't do that because it does have an impact, but it's claiming, it seems to be claiming that it has a much better LOS, and that is true. That's a fact.
Well, that's fine. That's end of it. And then whoever
But
reads
it sort of misleads the reader into thinking that it's a good thing. And
What it
doesn't talk
misleads is
about the
that,
bad.
yeah, what it misleads is just that traffic has also moved to a different intersection, right? So, but I'm sensitive, like, I both don't want to editorialize the traffic study, but also want to represent what Tony is saying. And I think that this sentence doesn't quite do it.
Okay, well, if that's the concern, that it should go to concern section for
It's
future.
it's not a concern. It's a fact. So the reason it scores better is because the way the model measures, right? That is because traffic has been moved. It does better. Rippin is. Can you help us as we're struggling here with traffic language? Is there a way to say make the point that Tony's trying to make without having to
Well,
write
he's
additional?
an assumption traffic is going to go to the Embarcadero. It might
No,
go
he's
somewhere.
not. Inyang, I think maybe we're talking past each other. When you close or when you do a partial underpass, some cars are going somewhere else. And so what's left, that intersection, the efficiency of the intersection scores artificially better because other cars are no longer in the intersection. So what Tony is saying is if you looked at the appendix and you look at how many cars are now from a volume perspective, like number of cars are going through the intersection, you would see that there's much worse, it's much lower. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's because it's now closed, right? There's certain movements you can't make. And so that's why I'm struggling. Rippin, is there a way to describe what Tony is, the point he's trying to make that?
Since Tony likes to is proposing that Viaduct is showing worse performance, maybe you can than others. It could be said the other way, that Viaduct therefore does not shows performance because it continues to utilize serve the existing traffic.
So the Viaduct looks the least efficient because it serves all traffic movements?
Yeah, it has 12 movements. It
Okay.
allows all
Maybe
12.
it
Maybe because
continues
it
to
doesn't
serve.
divert traffic or push traffic elsewhere. Isn't that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think that's more. So the Viaduct looks the least efficient, or how about has the lowest LOS? So it's not a judgment.
Other way, higher.
Has a higher LOS, sorry. Because it serves all traffic movements
Because it continues
rather,
to serve all traffic
Yes.
movements.
yeah, rather than divert.
I think
Viaduct
it's-
doesn't have the higher LOS than higher LOS than closure, but not higher LOS than the partial underpass.
Higher is bad, and then yeah, I believe it is worse than anyone else.
I was,
Higher, lower to me is hard when we're talking about letters.
yeah, so has a
Yeah.
worse,
That says B.
has the
Yeah,
worst.
worse. Yeah,
Worse.
or better is better. I think is better. Yeah.
Okay, so has the worst LOS because it serves all traffic movements rather than divert cars to other intersections. Does that say it?
Does it for me.
Okay, everybody okay with that?
Sure.
I would add the LOS at Alma Churchill.
Okay, that has the worst LOS at Alma Churchill. We good? I think that's much better.
And this is kind of troubling because LOS is a standard metric, and we're now saying it doesn't really work. And I wish we had done this a year ago.
Well, that's why this is additional problem with the traffic study, not, you should interpret what it is in the, well, that's what it is in the paper. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with the sentence. I'm just not
Well,
thrilled that,
if
Yeah,
it
but
helps, the state,
LOS is simply a measure of congestion and delay.
At
The
what-
more traffic through an intersection, the more congestion and delay. So what we're saying is that with the viaduct, we aren't diverting any traffic. It has the most traffic of any of the alternatives, therefore it has the most congestion and delay. That's all pretty straightforward.
it's not,
It's
yeah,
not a
it's-
problem with the study.
and I
Agree
would
with Phil.
just add as a parenthesis for us, it has the lowest cost per car it serves.
I'm not going there, Tony. That's a whole other can of worms that we're not fishing tonight. Okay, is this sentence okay? And can we move on?
do we have the comparison with status quo? Is that in one
Yes,
of the
that's
charts?
in the chart. No improvements. It's up on the top here.
And how does the viaduct compare to no improvements?
The viaduct does better than no improvements because you don't have unclearable queues anymore,
Okay,
right?
okay, I think it's reasonable.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to accept this change. Okay.
But this reinforces what Riggs was saying about the network study.
Yeah,
Yes.
but this is just that section is all just explaining the traffic report. It's no interpretation. So.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out where this comment comes from. Okay, in this section, I added the PTAC letter and I had shown this to you guys last meeting, so that's why it's not showing up as a track change, but I just want to make sure everybody saw it. And then starting here, this was the section where I'm not sure why the summary of majority. I think what we tried to do in this section was say recommendations, basically explain how we voted, and then go into the majority's opinion. And so that title should move to another section, which will start further down. There's the majority opinion. You see it down here. So that's what happened in this section, but let's go by line so everyone can see what happened. So recommendations. So this is recapping what happened. 6 members voted to recommend closure with mitigations to the city council as a preferred alternative for the Churchill grade separation. And then here are the no votes. Let's see who. Carrie had added based on current information because when she reviewed the video, that was kind of the repetition at the time was like, look, we don't have all the information. We're never going to have all of the information, but based on what we have, this is what we agree to. So she,
And quite a few people said it. Yeah, just quite a few people said it. I haven't gone back since I saw that there was a intent to remove that language, but it was emphasized and reflected repeatedly by multiple different members. That's why I wanted to capture it, because I thought it was more accurately reflecting of the vote. What was your thought about removing it?
Everything we voted on or just considered was based on current information. If you're going to have that sentence, that phrase here, you need to have it all over the place.
Well, I think that what's relevant is this is in the section of where we're making recommendations. So, and I think that if you follow what we voted on a little further down, we all acknowledge that we don't have all the answers. And in fact, here are areas of future study. So I think the reason that it was significant was because it attempts to say, and it's said again later in the minority position, like the 3 minority folks also felt like we were missing information, just like the majority. The difference is that for us, the missing information made us unable to render a decision, whereas the majority was able to render a decision despite understanding that there's not all the information's there.
I don't think you don't add very much. I mean, it's important maybe, but doesn't make a big difference. And I agree with Larry, it's all based on current information. Unless you dated it based on 2019 study or something.
Anybody else, Greg or Keith or?
I don't think we need to qualify these things.
Agree with
I-
Greg.
Tony?
I don't have an opinion here.
Okay.
You know, I'd have to look at the tape and say, is deleting it taking their recommendation out of context? That'd be my concern.
Yeah, that's my only concern. And so I went through the transcript. I didn't go through the tapes, but I didn't search for the specific term. Carrie, I don't know
Yeah,
if you did.
all I will say, and I'm not going to object if you want to remove it, but it was, I mean, the vote was taken based on what we know now, and it was emphasized, and everybody repeated that, and it's fine. I think that is something we can infer from context without explicitly saying it, but we did explicitly say it. So
Yeah,
I want
I think the issue is if you only say it here and you don't emphasize it elsewhere, then it turns it around and makes it feel like there's some kind of emphasis here, where in fact, I mean, all of it's like, as Larry said, just a recommendation based on what we know.
No,
But
no,
if people
I-
explicitly stated it, then that's different.
Yeah, I felt that this was more a reflection that the two, although we arrived at different votes, this was something that I thought was consistent across the different groups'
yeah, because
mindset.
because there was some reluctance, people who said yes, but yes, based on all the traffic study they've seen, not, you know, if they do another study, they might change, right? So those are kind of assumptions that it's.
Sure, and like Larry said, it's all based on the information we had. I think I was surprised at how much more aligned we were on this issue during the meeting, and wanted to bring it up for discussion. So that's all I'll say on that.
Okay. Well, is there strong objection to including it, or? I mean, to me, I'm with Larry that it sort of means all of this is based on current information, but I think Carrie, having reviewed the tape, feels like it was really substantive at the time of the vote. I'm not in the majority, so, you know, it's up to y'all.
I just think that emphasis here without putting emphasis elsewhere will then increase some speciality that we're assigning to it. And yeah, we might have mentioned it, but I can also say that the motion I made for the indecision or inability to make a decision over at Charleston Meadow is based on also current information too.
But that is literally our motion. We cannot make we could not make a decision based on the information available. That was literally the motion for South Palo Alto.
Yeah, so I guess it's just
Well,
that
it is emphasized in the minority report, Dave. That's why I wanted to bring it here, because I think
no, but it's not emphasized in Charleston Meadow though, right?
Yes, it is. That was literally the motion was we cannot make a decision with the information available. That was our motion.
I'll have to look at that.
it's not worth more minutes here. If you
Okay,
want to remove it
all
or
right.
not remove it, that's fine.
Okay, I will. Oops, I meant to do the opposite there. If it's okay with the group, this first section is we are putting out what we recommended, and then the majority opinion comes later. So I'm going to keep these titles how I edited them because that reflects what happens in the document. And same with this sentence. The more information about the majority and minority opinions is in the next section. That's literally what comes next. Larry, you removed this. Do you want to speak to that?
Oh, I don't really feel too strongly about it. It just seems to me to be redundant.
Well, I just wanted to go into we're going to go into more detail about what the no's voted on. That was sort of my way to indicate that. Like you'll hear more about the majority and the minority.
I'm trying to find ways to eliminate words, but if you want to put them in, I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, I think in this case, it provides clarity to what's coming. Always tell the reader what's coming next in some ways. So this first sentence was actually literally in the motion. The mitigations proposed by the consultants are conceptual. That was actually in the documents. If you guys need me to pull that up, I can find those because I put them here. Let's see, on the 16th, you can see right here. This is what we voted on at the time that was on the screen, and the words that the existing mitigations provided by the consultants are conceptual and we need additional mitigations was in the motion. So
That's not what you said. And
what do you mean that's not what I said? That's literally what it says. I copy pasted.
no, it's divided up. We you've made it that it's a sort of a predicate to what we then voted on. It's just sort of a statement of fact, and then we said existing ones need to be addressed. Not that because theirs are conceptual that we need to do something. It's because we felt they weren't complete. So I think you've misread what we really want. You say there, in addition, since the mitigations proposed, then we have to
Okay,
move.
so how about just the mitigations proposed?
I think that we don't need that lead in. XCAP separately voted for additional mitigations.
But they voted
That's
for
an
it, literally, this was the sentence, right? Existing mitigations provided by the consultants are conceptual and we need additional mitigations.
right, but they're not necessarily a before and after or a why. We felt, I think, more accurately that they were not complete.
Okay, so the mitigations proposed by the consultants are conceptual.
Well, I don't know what we mean by conceptual. Everything is conceptual. I don't know who made
So-
that motion, but
Well, we all did. We all voted on the motion. I didn't, I mean, I literally am just
well,
taking
I
this
don't
from the
know who
record.
wrote the language.
So
I'm-
Nadia, why do you want to make it more adding these things? What's your purpose?
In Young, I'm simply trying to reflect what we voted on. And
But it
so
doesn't do anything for anybody else.
what do you
saying
mean? Okay,
It's everything is conceptual. So why you stress? I mean, you highlighting here.
the reason I'm highlighting it here is because when the consultant said there would have to be, as an example, when they added the intersection for Kingsley High and Embarcadero, right? They said we're going to have additional bike ped. It depends on which intersection formation we take. So these are just conceptual. So it's important to denote for the public and everybody reading this that not all the things that were presented are exactly what's decided. They're all in conceptual mode. And this is also what was literally in our motion when we voted.
Okay, can you give me something that wasn't conceptual?
Can I help? Can I jump in here? And
Sure.
I think just remembering back to what we were discussing is we were trying to say, to capture that these are not plans. These are designs, concepts. And if we captured it incorrectly, in the motion, it is what it is. But I think what we were getting at did have meaning is these have to be continued to be worked on. These are not ready. They're not plans. They're early designs, early conceptual designs. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does to me.
Okay.
So the mitigation
not-
conceptual, it's the plans that are the drawings that are prepared are conceptual.
Exactly, you nailed it.
But the traffic study is not conceptual.
So maybe we can, like to Larry's point, maybe we can improve upon the wording, even if we also reflect the wording of the motion. We can clarify it.
Sure. Any suggesting language?
Add around conceptual, change that to early conceptual designs. And explain that they are not plans. Or we can use, if Ripon has some ideas to add here. Specific plan means something else, don't use that.
Okay.
You say finalized plans?
Plans is fine, I mean, they're not like,
No, I think adding not final plans would make it clearer.
nice, that's good.
I would say that the proposed conceptual plans, the conceptual plans prepared by the consultants are early designed and not final plans.
Well, if you're following the text, it doesn't say early conceptual design. It says conceptual design.
So are we working on quoting or are we working on clarifying the quoted text?
Well, Nadia wanted to put it there because it's stated in the minute. So now you're changing the minute.
No, I think we're trying to clarify, and I asked her to add the exact text later on. I think we're okay with doing both, right?
I think you're right, Carrie.
Yeah, I'm okay with doing both. I want to both reflect the minutes, but also make sure we're echoing back what we meant. If we screwed up the minutes, that's okay. But as long as we
Ripon had a good text. You may have to get that again from him.
Okay, Ripon, you want to give it to me one more time?
I was saying the concept plans prepared by the consultants are early designs and not final plans.
Oh, I prefer the language we had before, just what Nadia had written. Because now we're talking about not just, we were talking only about mitigations, and if we use plans, we're talking about everything.
Okay, mitigations proposed by the consultants are early conceptual designs and not final plans. XCAP separately voted for additional mitigation in areas of study if the council selects the closure alternative. And then here's the vote, and then this is what we voted on.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. The only, I'm not sure what, I think Dave just did some style stuff for me, which I appreciate. The only additional word that I added that wasn't technically in the motion, but I think was just dropped, is that it's this one on the considering a bike connection plan. The word plan was not included, so I just added that for clarifying purposes. So,
did you bring over the additional text that you were quoting before?
This is all the additional text that I quoted. Did you mean somewhere else, or?
The sentence we were clarifying.
This is what we made it say.
Okay. Do you want to include the quoted?
Well, the quoted text
or not. I'm just a reminder. I don't care.
No, it's fine. It says existing mitigations provided by the consultants are conceptual, and we need additional mitigations. So now we're saying the mitigations proposed by the consultants are early conceptual designs, not final plans. XCAP voted for additional mitigations in areas of study. I think it's consistent.
Works for me.
Okay, this is just Dave's formatting, which I'm going to accept. Phil, you had a question here about which intersection, but the intersection is actually named in the thing, so I think you just missed that. Or are you talking about something else? Oh, you're muted, Phil. We can't hear you.
Well, the sentence is kind of incomplete. It said add a light at unsignalized left out of Old Palo Alto. Is that referring to the Northern California Alma intersection?
It's actually should be to provide a signalized left out of Old Palo Alto is actually what it should be.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Yep. Okay, and then this section also was a cut and paste from the transcript and from the motion. So Dave has here the language used just before this section says with the following additions modifications, which implies that we require it. I don't recall us requiring the crossing at Seal. This is how we voted on the motion. Add a bike ped crossing at Seal.
It just sounds like that it's a demand and not a possibility for research. So are we saying that we voted on saying that it must be in there?
I'm happy to modify it because it's not like we can demand a crossing. I think maybe it would be better to say add a bike ped crossing study at Seal, meaning they should look at that as one of the things that we want them to look at.
Yeah, whatever we say that to consider it in that sense, strongly consider it, strongly recommend, I don't know, whatever you want to say. But the way it's put here now, it's like we want you to add it to bike option 2.
Sure, I think, does that work? If I put in study and I don't capitalize it, because that does not.
I think the word study should be at the start.
Yeah.
After the word add.
Yeah. Or get rid of add. Or oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, make study a verb.
So study bike ped crossing at Seal.
Okay.
That would be one way of doing it.
What did we, just trying to remember and totally, I could be wrong on this, but didn't we like insist that a bike crossing would be required mitigation for this to be, for the closure to be effective?
So the closure itself has option 1 or option 2, and we voted on option 2. And what we talked about was, in addition, they're going to need to study and potentially have to add a crossing at Seal, so that when they're building the crossing at Churchill, whether it's option 1 or option 2, we have another safe way for the kids to cross. So you might have to even think about reordering them.
That I understand, but wasn't it Seal or somewhere nearby? Like it wasn't maybe Seal, maybe none at all?
No, it was Seal, and it was Seal for several reasons, a few of which
okay,
were
but
exactly in the
not building a another bike ped crossing an option. Like we recommended that this was going to be
we
critical.
Recommended option 2 in the middle of the road and study a crossing at Seal.
Okay, it was just study. We thought it was optional. I don't remember that.
The motion technically said add bike crossing at Seal and says everything that it says here. So if that's not what folks intended, then I'm okay changing that.
Studying it is very different.
I agree. And I do want to say that saying to add it and if it's not possible is also makes it irrelevant. So either way, it has to be looked at. But I want to make sure it's strong enough to indicate what we meant. And
did you say prioritize instead of study? Prioritize means that make it high priority, but not necessarily have to do it.
Okay. Are you guys all okay with that?
I remember it being, yeah, we wanted one there, but we never showed any feasibility. So it seems a little out of context to say do it.
Yeah, and staff did come back. We did have some back and forth, and staff came back to say that yes, this was one of the sites that had been Seal had been discussed in it as something feasible, but no plans had ever been drawn. So we do know that it's a technically feasible site.
Well, I just feel uncomfortable with you changing the words of what our motion
Of what
was.
what the motion was. I agree.
Because studying it and recommending it are two totally different things.
Well, and I will just say that even though it says add a bike ped crossing at Seal, doesn't make it so. They're going to have to study it. So I'm okay with the language as it existed because it's what we voted on, and I think either way there has to be a study to look at its feasibility.
Chair, I'd like to also note that any additional measure that we are asking has to have a nexus to the project so that it could be justified as a part of the additional mitigation and or the requirement for the project.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually the environmental report or something has to kind of jive up unless it's a city project that we can prioritize and do it separately ahead of time.
I mean, the second line is hopefully what ties that to the project, because the idea was you build the Seal one first, and then you would build the option 2 at Churchill.
Yeah, but eventually it has to be tied up somehow with facts and figures to reflect that need is actually supported by the project. Certainly we have the backup and information here, but it has to be in the environmental document as well. And then only you can package it as a part of the project, right? So just wanted to make sure that we all have that same.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember we discussed it and we were excited about it, but it was also out of scope for our committee. So I mean, we don't get to suggest, we
It's
don't
not-
get to demand bike improvements anywhere in Palo Alto we want. So,
Why was it out of scope, Greg?
because it's not a rail crossing.
Right,
I-
but we're saying that if you're going to close Churchill and build the bike ped crossing, you basically now make it impossible for the bikes and peds to cross there. So the discussion was, if you had a bike ped crossing that got built at Seal first, then by the time you do a closure and have to build option 2, you have to divert traffic, the bike ped traffic could be diverted to Seal. And
Okay.
the other thing was, it is both something that already existed. It's in the comprehensive plan, it's in the bike plan, and it's in the rail corridor plan. So it wasn't actually something that we necessarily thought of on our own. We just reiterated what exists.
So strong language is fine. Let's keep it with it. Let's not.
Yeah,
change
I'm
it to
okay with
steady.
just if
Okay, so I do not remember we voting on this thing.
we
as
did.
a-
It's in the. I could show you the minutes in Young if you.
So maybe I missed the meeting.
No,
right?
you were there because we had a 7-0 vote. So you were there. It's right. So I'm sorry you don't remember. but
Okay,
I
okay, so
promise you
what
were
was
there.
the motion? So
Um,
saying that we have to have all these additional study?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I remember recommending it, but I didn't think it was a vote. Okay. Well,
Can you go back
Um,
to that minutes real quick?
yeah,
Because there's some important language, I think, that was in the paragraph right
do you
before
want-
the list.
From
So,
of the bike ped one.
yeah, let me see here.
Let me make sure I have the right date. No, this is the wrong one. Let me show you the right
Okay.
one because this is September 9th and we need to see the one for
Early
the
one.
16th.
yeah.
This was the final one that we voted on.
Well, so this whole section is qualified by general potential mitigations.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, right there,
Yeah.
general potential mitigations, which kind of sets the tone for stronger language, add, and this is bike option 2 potential mitigations, not bike option 2, right? It's
Exactly.
additions to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess the concern is on the other doc, without that general potential thing sitting in front of it in some form, it sounds like we're demanding something.
Yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't belong in this section, this thing. It's nothing to do with the bike option 1 or 2.
It is part of the vote of option 1 or option 2.
No, it's not.
It is. That's what happened.
No, go back to the minute. It doesn't say just general mitigation. It's
This
not.
is not the minutes. These are the notes. So this is what was on the screen when we voted. So the two different documents. There's the what was on the screen that we were looking at as XCAP members, and then I can flip to the transcript, which has how everybody voted, which is summarized at right here. But this was what we vote. This was what was on the screen when we voted. So we voted 7-0-2. So I think Dave's point's a really good one, which is we have the words general potential mitigation. So if the group is okay adding general potential mitigations here, potential. You want to say mitigations here?
Yeah, if we want to stay true to the minutes, we should just use the whole.
Yep, I'm fine
whatever's
with
there.
that. I think that's a great catch. Thank you for that.
It's missing one, isn't it? You only have 2.
I only have 2 what?
There were 3 in your minutes?
There is.
Add a light. Oh, you put it in a different section.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's about the partial underpass. So I put that in the suggestions for partial underpass.
Okay, all right.
Just to chime in here for the record, because Ripon told us that we really need to tie this together. So we all agree that this is part of the mitigations, that these bike ped crossings, we voted have that be part of the mitigations for Churchill closure. Is that correct?
That's the way I understand it. Yes.
Okay. And Greg, you're on board with that?
Yeah, I'm on board with it, but I think Dave was right that the potential general potential mitigations makes it less of a, XCAP voted to build a bike crossing at Seal, but XCAP voted that
Right.
there's a bunch of potential mitigations for the project. I would actually be happy with actually voting to add a bike ped crossing at Seal if we need to resolve the clarity.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
I
if
don't
it-
think we can. Guys, we can't vote on those things. We can vote on
yes, we
recommendations.
can't. That's true
Well,
because
that's
it's not
what I mean.
agendized.
Obviously, it's all a recommendation. Yes.
Yes. It's also not agendized. We have to give the public a chance. and
Okay.
All that good
Well,
stuff.
I'm kind of, yeah, okay.
Okay.
The-
I wanted to clarify that formally, Greg, because you said earlier you weren't sure if that was part, and I want to make sure that for the record, we all think it's part.
We'll leave that
I
there
think
so everyone can see.
it accurately reflects what we voted on. So
Thank you.
And I'm just accepting these are all Dave's indent, whatever.
I have a question. So why these two did not want to abstain? What were the reason?
From what I read in my notes, Tony abstained because he didn't think any of the bike ped crossings were great. He doesn't like under crossings. And Phil abstained because on principle, because he was opposed to a closure. And so therefore he felt like voting for an alternative for the bike thing didn't make any sense because he still didn't think you should close. Did I get that right, Tony and Phil?
You got that right from me, Nadia.
You got it right from me too.
Don't we want to say that in the meeting? No?
That's a good point. So that is actually, I'm gonna mark this section here with a comment. And the only reason I'm doing that is add Phil and Tony's position. I have a sentence that's actually in the executive summary that talks about that. And I made a note in that thing to stick it here. But for the sake of just moving through the rest of this document, if I get your okay to put that in there, then we can all agree to that and I'll just do so. We don't need to sit here while I look for
Sure.
that.
Yeah, just to balance it because.
Yeah,
you're
I think
on
that's,
us.
yeah. And so I will put in those sentences and I'll check with Phil and Tony to make sure I got those right. Thank you, Nam.
Chair, can we add after on the first bullet point, add bike lane, bike ped crossing at Seal, potential mitigation, similar to the bike second option, like where it says bike option 2, potential mitigation. Even the first one is also potential mitigation. That way it's not clear, it's clear that it's also one of the general potential mitigation that is.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Is everyone okay with that? He's
I
saying,
understand it. So say it again.
he's saying add that word there so it matches.
Be more
what's below.
specific so that there isn't a difference between add bike ped at Seal and bike option 2.
Thank you.
I'm still not following it because the previous line says general potential mitigations. And then we're saying potential mitigation again in the next line.
The unfortunate thing is the second one, bike option 2, potential mitigations, is sitting in our notes.
Right. So we can take it out of the sentence here. We get with the following potential mitigations, and then we can.
Or we take it out of both of those on the bottom too.
Okay.
That's another way, maybe. I don't know.
Take it out of here and then take it out of here.
Because we have the initial potential word already.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
As for the closing Churchill, I may very well be wrong on this. I thought we had decided that was an impractical one.
Which one?
Closing Churchill to cars. I know we heard testimony that it wouldn't work. So if we
I'm sorry. Is it this?
agreed to put it in, okay, but I
this,
thought we had
this sentence?
felt that it wasn't really feasible.
I think part of this was just we're putting it out there if it's possible because we think it would be better. If it's not possible, then so be it. I think that's kind of where we were when we got to this part, to be honest. But it technically was in the motion that we voted for, and that was what was on the screen because I looked at the video.
Okay, that's we voted for it, but
Yeah, I feel like we can't
Okay, but-
revise it, but I hear what you're saying. I don't. Okay, I'll fix the formatting here later. Okay, so now we come to the majority position. Okay, so we had the discussion about this phrase before, so I'm just going to leave it out. Oops, I just hit the wrong one. Except.
Nadia, under the lowest cost option,
Yeah.
it says the Viaduct option is estimated at highest still costs. Just so that we know, it's because we don't have the information from the northern section. If it's an extension to a viaduct there, the costs, the marginal costs may be lower.
Yeah, but Tony, but then it's part of another different project. I think that'll,
Yes, I agree.
yeah, I think I hear you, but I don't think that edit, I think that edit will only serve to confuse people.
No, I didn't mean to edit. I just
Okay,
wanted to comment.
yeah. Okay, and so we have edits. How's everyone with this highlighted paragraph? So we have this back and forth on implementable, fully developed, feasible. So I don't agree with feasible because literally the original design that was presented to us by Mike Price was not feasible, and the consultants changed it to make it feasible. So it's technically a feasible design. So you had initially had implementable, and we changed it to is not fully developed because but it's not feasible either. So I'm fine if it's not any of these, but we have to pick a word here.
Yeah, but what does feasible mean in this context?
I didn't put it there, so Larry can speak to that.
Yeah, but I'd like to make the point that feasible says, well, it says several things. One is we can acquire the land we need from Caltrain. Another point is the turning movements. There's enough room for the geometry for the turning movements. And the ecom showed that there is enough room for the turning movements at the cost of taking a sliver of land from Caltrain.
Could
So
we
I
say
was-
preferred?
quite willing
Because we
to go back
voted
to-
that it was not preferred.
I'm quite willing to go back to the word implementable.
Yeah, but implementable, it's buildable,
Right.
and that means it's implementable.
No, implementable carries with it a lot of different.
Well, what does it carry? I mean, but I'm not saying that we should favor this, but
It's not implementable because of the variety of problems that it has.
What about desirable?
but all these alternatives have issues and problems.
Right. So I think that this paragraph actually fairly accurately reflects how I feel, although I don't agree that the partial underpass is implementable. We can build it. It is feasible, but I don't think it's a good idea.
Well, that's a different question.
Right. So
I think it has too much impact on the neighborhood and on traffic patterns and on pedestrians and bicyclists.
so
Those are all reasonable issues, but that doesn't mean it's not implementable.
Right.
so is there a word we can agree on, or would it be acceptable to remove the sentence then? You guys tell me what you
That
want.
might be better to remove the
I have
sentence.
two suggestions. What we discussed in the video was whether we preferred the closure versus the underpass. So we could use the word not preferable. What is being described and what the essence of our discussion was that it's not desirable to implement it in its current state. So I think those are two options that we could look at for wording.
I like not preferable.
Me
And I think what we're trying to say in this paragraph, I think what this paragraph is trying to say is that it's not preferable, and more study is not going to make it more preferable, which is, I think, where the majority and the minority disagree.
Right. And that is said in a different section when you talk about,
Okay.
There's another sentence in there somewhere else that says that.
The thing I don't like about this last sentence, it's the majority putting words in the minority's mouth. And I think that's just bad practice.
I agree. Let's delete that sentence.
Okay. I'm good with that. The rest, I think this works.
Yeah, you also deleted the end of the paragraph, so the next
Oh,
line
sorry.
is in the wrong.
Oh, yeah,
font. There you
that'll,
go. Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and then, okay. And then remove this sentence. And this is. Okay, so this is how it'll stay. I just want to make sure you guys all look at it now corrected and make sure it's okay with you.
I like it.
I think it accurately reflects what we discussed.
Okay, I need to hear from Larry, Dave, and Tony, and Inyoung.
Oh, I said I like it.
Oh, sorry, and Greg, I mean.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, Inyoung, I think you muted yourself. Are you okay with it?
Yes.
Okay. Tony and Larry?
Yes.
Larry, you good?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, Phil had a minor grammatical thing. Those who own houses with their backyards adjacent to the thing will experience a rail structure that's over 40 feet in the air versus a train running on it. You guys okay with that?
It's the structure is actually 50 feet because in other parts of the report it says 20 feet to the top of rail and 30 feet in addition.
Okay, the structure, so my only concern is the rail structure itself is actually only 20 to 25 feet big, or 15 to 20, and then the structure with a train on it is higher. So can we,
Top of rail is 20 feet and then you have 30 feet in addition.
okay, so what's a better edit here? It says over 40 feet. Is that? I mean, I think-
Yeah, maybe that's okay.
Maybe, well, the way it was before actually seems more accurate then, right? If we say if there's a structure and there happens to be a train running on it, then it's going to be over 40 feet.
Okay, Phil, you're all right with that?
this-
Oh, you're muted.
I don't want to spend too much time on this question. It's just not that important.
Okay, all right. I'm
Let's
just
just
gonna,
keep moving.
Me
all
too.
right. Okay, moving on.
I have a problem here.
Okay,
I'm not sure what this table is saying. It's taking an intersection that is at F and moving it to an A. I don't get it. I'm not understanding what the improvements that can ever be done that can bring an intersection to A unless you stop traffic. Maybe Ripon can explain this table.
well, Ripon didn't put it in there, we did.
But it's from the traffic study, so
It is from the traffic study.
maybe he can give us guidance why the traffic study would say that.
I'm trying to make it so you can see both the sentence and the thing. I'm not having a lot of success.
Let me
here.
read through it on my screen and because it's too small for me to read.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Why don't you guys move on and I can read it and then we can come back here. That
Okay,
is-
so I just, a question for the majority here. The paragraph before it basically says the mitigations were examined by the traffic consultant at many different intersections where the traffic was projected to be rerouted. Details of the proposed mitigations can be found here. A summary of the projected mitigation, results of the mitigations and the affected intersections are shown here. So do you know why you put this in there with what purpose or who put it in?
I
it
didn't
was
put
like-
it in.
It was likely something I put in way in the beginning.
Okay.
Just to show what the traffic report stated. I will have to look. I don't recall if there was explanation text after that, because usually I put a table and then I kind of talk about it a little bit. I might have been dangling. I don't remember though.
So we have in the upper section where we actually go through all the alternatives, we already had those two tables where we had that LOS discussion, right? So what I'm wondering is this section is really about you guys as a majority articulating why you believe that the vehicular traffic will be moved elsewhere can be mitigated. I'm not sure, I mean, you can certainly use a chart to try to tell your story, or you can just use words here. So it's up to you whether you want to include the actual chart, because so it's up to you.
Well, the inclusion of the chart shows everything moving towards ABs, right?
So a brief explanation is that there was traffic signals that are proposed at those intersections that improves the traffic from stop signs, side street stop controls to traffic signals that will change the level of service drastically.
But does it go from an F to an A?
Correct, because the side street delays are too excessive. If they are stop controlled on the side street and main street is, fully does not have any controls. So side street has the F, and which kind of determines the level of service of the intersection at times, and that's why it could drastically change when an intersection is installed on a side stop controlled intersection.
And I think what I found, I'm with you, Tony. I think what's confusing about this intersection is the following. So Alma and Lincoln is currently a stop sign. So all stop signs, correct me if I'm wrong, but are always rated an F. So by putting a light there, it now becomes an A. Is that?
That's right.
Okay. And then at Alma and Embarcadero, we're adding a new light. So a signal doesn't exist, right? And now it would.
Yes.
Yes. And then, so these are not necessarily fair. Like to the casual observer, it makes it look like there's this huge improvement, but really it's because you're just adding lights in places where they don't exist today. There is no light at Alma and Kingsley, and you're adding a new one. So that's why it goes from an F to a B, right?
Yeah, but this section's about mitigations as a whole and what happens when we do closures plus those mitigations.
Right. I'm just saying, I know why you put this in there and I get it. I'm just, this chart is hard to read without the rest of the context of the traffic study. So what I'm asking is it possible for you guys to say in words that, the mitigations could be, the report shows on the following pages that it could be better. And
All we have
maybe-
to do is say as shown in the traffic report, because we
Right,
spent
and-
days and days and days and days
Yeah,
on the
and
traffic
not-
report, and I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, and not put the table in, right? Because this is just you guys making your case. It's not like we don't need to go back to the traffic report. You can certainly refer to a page maybe, but that might help with this. It's just a proposed suggestion. You guys could take it or leave it.
I would think that it would be better if we say as shown in the traffic report and remove the table.
There's a paragraph on page 49 that explains that. If you want to copy paste that paragraph, that's another option.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
Okay. At this point, just as a time check, it's 5:47. We're going to 6:30, but I know Carrie has to leave by 6 or before 6 because she has PTC tonight, and a little sooner because she probably wants to eat something between one meeting and the next. So obviously, for sure, we're going another week, guys. So clear your calendars for next Wednesday. I just want to say that now as we keep going.
Wait. You're not putting that on me, are you?
No, I'm not putting it on you.
Are there
kidding.
other sections we're planning on going through with this level of detail? Because I thought we were done except for this
I hope
section.
not. Once we're done with this, the lessons learned section is literally a copy paste. So once we're okay with this, I'm going to ask for your permission to just copy paste into the other section. And then the only other document we need to look at is that the executive summary had a sentence that sort of mis-summarized the same way we had mis-summarized before. And so now I've added the clarifying language on the Churchill closure had 3 votes, right? So we'll look at that. Hope if we can get it all done tonight, great. But otherwise, I just want to, before Carrie leaves, just in case, Carrie.
Yeah, I want to tell you, I think you can get it done tonight, and I hope you can get it done. I don't
think so
think
too.
that there's significant, controversial changes. I think that really this is so much better than it was last week. Everybody's comments are really improving it. I hope you can get it done. If so, great, thank you. And if not, happily participate again next week. I do have to go to my primary obligation, so I'm going to
Great.
sign off in about 2 minutes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Nadia, I have a hard stop at 6:30, so I know
Okay.
we've frequently gone over a little bit, but I really can't do that tonight.
Okay, all right. Let's try to get this done then.
So Nadia and Larry, on the appendix that's been put into the garbage can, I have another graphic that I'd really like 5 minutes to go over with the committee, with the XCAP, at the next meeting or this meeting. We've not looked at the discarded option, and I'd like 5 minutes because I still strongly believe that it's a good compromise between 3 neighborhoods.
Okay, Tony, can you remind me of that at the end? Yeah,
Sure.
In-Young? In-Young, I think you muted yourself. In-Young, I just see your hand up, but I can't hear you. You
I'm
muted yourself.
sorry.
It's okay.
Keeping on.
I just see you going,
Okay.
blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, I put some comments and some need to clarify, and I want Carrie to, I want
To
Carrie to
discuss
be
this?
there. Yeah, so
Okay.
can we go through my comments really quick, because these are very simple comments.
Sure. So this is in the minority opinion section?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Just- Before you go.
yep.
Before we go to that one, I think you have a,
Well, actually,
Yes.
Tony, Carrie has to leave. So we're just doing the section for Carrie and then we'll go back.
got it.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know, you're, just go through my comments.
They're right
like-
here. Do you see
Okay,
your
can you
name?
click on that one? So,
It's right here.
Public transit and school buses are operated by different agencies.
Yep.
and have
I know,
different
but
requirements.
why different agency, but you're complaining, you're addressing the traffic for these guys, and then this is part of the traffic study. So why do we need to include a separate treatment for this?
Phil, did you want to speak to that one? I think this might have been one of your ads.
They're
Unmuted.
operated by different agencies and very different schedules, and sometimes even at different speeds, different size vehicles.
Yeah, but that's a part of this traffic study.
I would just say the sheer number of times people came to us and said, what about the school buses? Including last week, or 2 weeks ago, we got a letter from Don Austin. I think we need to say something about the school buses. Otherwise, we're going to be hearing what about the school buses for a long time.
Yeah, but that's belonging here, incomplete traffic study.
Now, I like to say that, the traffic study considers all vehicles as vehicles, whether it's a transit or school bus. When it's looking at the peak hour traffic volumes, all volumes of traffic are included in there. Now, if it's it's not part of the traffic, it's not an incomplete traffic study because traffic standards would utilize that. But if a separate, review of how the system would operate, that could be a separate exercise that you could recommend, but not that the traffic study is incomplete.
Well, so the title here, Incomplete Traffic Study, is really representing the three main things or four main things that the minority opinion said were the reasons why they couldn't vote for it. They felt that there wasn't enough information in the traffic study, or that there needed to be further traffic study, however we want to word that about the Embarcadero grade step, about the partial underpass, and then the irreversible nature of the decision. That's what those are. The comment here about this thing, it really is actually linked to the comment prior to it in Young, which is the point was made by Billy Riggs, I think at the second meeting, that when you look at intersection by intersection level of service, you're not understanding what the network delays are. So when you think of the buses and the public buses and the school buses, that particular intersection may work more efficiently now, whichever ones were studied, but you don't have an understanding overall of how the public bus routes or the school bus routes are necessarily impacted. And that requires different agencies to get together and to look at the entire network level of service. That's what that refers to.
Of course, if it's a street is closed, then they're gonna go reroute the buses.
Right. So, but the streets that we measured may not necessarily be the places where the buses are going. So you can't say that was sufficiently mitigated that bus's problem, because now the bus may have to take a much more longer route. And so that's why actually it's more like along the vehicle miles traveled versus level of service. Carrie, go ahead.
Right. So if
I just got a quick comment in Young before I have to sign on 5 minutes early to PPC, so I really do have to go. But I didn't write this, so you have all the people that can answer it. What my role in giving feedback during this editing exercise was to help them give the guideposts so that you can scan it and see what the top issues are. So that's why you see the headline of incomplete traffic study, Embarcadero grade separation, et cetera. That was to help with one point that you brought up last week. And the other was really to help distill out what was the group discussion versus really very narrowly, specifically, what was their objection and their reason for their no vote. So this should be tighter, more concise, more scannable, easier to kind of pull the main points from, and then that was the role I played in this. So I think you will have the people on to answer those questions.
Okay, thanks, Carrie.
Okay.
can
All right.
go
Sure.
now.
See you guys. All right. Bye.
Thanks, Carrie.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
So I have one issue about calling it an incomplete traffic study. I think the contract for this traffic study was complete. I think we need additional information, but I don't think this traffic study was incomplete.
Okay, so how about incomplete traffic information?
Well, the issue I think is lack of coverage of the study. So Tony is right. I mean, in the sense that they were given a contract, they executed on the contract, and they delivered on it. The question for us is, was the study design comprehensive enough? Or
Okay,
did it-
well, I don't know. Like, let's focus on my topic. You can say that afterwards. So my topic here is, so in the future, we have a traffic study, complete traffic study, hopefully. Then you're going to specify how the bus is going to route and different agencies going to participate in the study.
If you had a network impact,
Don't mix it with the network thing, because network thing is all over the street and all these other traffic. So this is nothing to do with network.
but it does, because the point is the buses go elsewhere on the network, and we've only looked at certain intersections. So you can't know how the rerouting of the VTA or the VTA buses is impacted by what you did, right? As an example, just to
Okay,
give-
so
to pinpoint.
so because of the bus and you have to reroute, we're not going to make a decision because of
No,
that.
none of this is to hinder a decision. The point is to make is that, look, I think it's fair to say that this isn't, no matter what happens, council is probably not acting on this super quickly. So at some point there will have to be an additional study. And what we're proposing is when you do a further traffic study in the future, because you will need to, one of the things that you guys should consider looking at is how the LOS impacts to the network may or may not have an impact on public buses and transit. It may be that the answer is it doesn't, because no buses even use that route, or they've been rerouted and now, I don't know what the answer could be.
That's right. I agree with you. So we put these things in the traffic study. So why?
So we have those in the traffic study for. But this is remember, this is the minority explaining why they were not comfortable supporting the majority. So this is really us explaining to you what we thought. You may disagree. Clearly you did. That's why you voted the way you voted. But this is the section where we get to describe why we voted how we voted, right? That's what that is.
Okay.
Thank you, Nadia.
Yeah. But I'm okay changing this to be incomplete traffic information rather than study. Are you okay with that?
Or could you say deficient or?
No, nothing was deficient. It was just it was a lack of coverage.
Yeah, it's not their fault. It wasn't scoped, right? And it probably
the
couldn't
scope
have been.
exactly. The scope was incomplete relative to the issues.
Right, and that's not their fault.
Here, can we say additional traffic concerns or additional elements?
Sure. So the suggestion that Karen
word feels like that someone did not do their work.
Okay,
Yes.
sure.
Incomplete in terms of these three people.
How about this? Additional traffic information needed.
Good.
This is again in the minority section. So this is not what you guys think. This is what the minority thinks. Does that sound less? Does that sound better?
Well, the whole section is the minority report, so to a certain degree, it needs
Right,
to be
I
up to the
understand, but
minority.
I'm sensitive
yes.
to I don't want it to feel like we're picking on Hexagon and it's not their fault, right? So I just want to be sure that we're both explaining why we voted how we voted, but also not coming down on Hexagon. And so I'm totally sensitive to that and want to make sure that we nail this language. Keith and Phil, are you guys okay with that? And the rest of you, does that capture it for you?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I don't know.
Works
Phil?
for me.
Phil, does that work for you?
Yeah.
What?
I hear a
Sounds like you're not real enthusiastic, Phil.
No, I'm not, but I also don't want to have 2 more meetings.
Okay, but don't let that guy, really, if you've got a better word, throw it out there. Use your.
Well, I've thrown it out. It's the issue is study design. That's the issue.
Okay, so help me with what you wanted to say.
the study design was not comprehensive enough.
Okay.
The traffic study as designed did not cover all the issues that should have been covered.
Okay. So
And
keep in
as a
mind-
result, as a result, there are information gaps,
okay. So I
not
put,
efficiency.
Yeah, but Phil, you did not define do this and this and this. They went and did their expert analysis.
In Young, this,
right?
no, the
That's your-
Hexagon
yeah.
was given a contract to study. They were given a contract. There was probably some exchange of proposal and acceptance. And this is what was agreed to and accepted. And the issue was it was agreed to and accepted was not comprehensive enough. Not pointing fingers at Hexagon. They were probably told what to do and they did it.
Okay,
I was
again,
rather impressed with Gary. by
Right,
the
right.
way.
So it was not comprehensive for you and maybe some other people comprehensive.
Yeah, but you know, in Young, this is a minority opinion. You can't tell me how to
yeah,
feel.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think what we need to respect here is that this is how the three of us felt. And so we can certainly make sure that the language accurately, you know, is not, what's the right word?
Inflammatory.
You're
It's not
saying that-
inflammatory, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, this is how we feel. You may not agree. Clearly you don't, but that is how we feel. And we have to be able to say that.
Yeah, but I don't have an opportunity to say, my feeling is that this traffic,
You did. That's what the above section is, which we can.
no, I did not specify that. My personal feeling is not there.
Okay.
But you have a opportunity to feel, say your personal feeling, it's on there.
But it's not, in Young, it's simply because the three of us are, this is the three of us, how we voted together, all have the same opinion and we're putting that on there.
Okay, so I have an
In
opinion.
Young, listen. Presumably, you did not have significant issues with the study, or you would not have been part of the majority vote, right? Presumably. It's the people who did not accept the majority opinion and are trying to articulate their reasons. And these are the reasons we are trying to articulate.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not,
think you should tell us
Okay,
that what
okay.
our
That's
feelings
fine.
are valid or not.
Okay, so I'm not saying valid or not. So you adding your personal feelings, but minority section, I did not have an opportunity to put my personal feelings in there.
But was it relevant?
right. It doesn't, you already have the majority. So why do you need to go even further and say, and in Young thinks, right? I think that the point is that this is.
Yeah, this is not a court where each judge signs the
Yeah, it's-
minority opinions.
So in Young, I mean, I want to
Okay.
hear what you're saying, but I want to also be mindful of everybody else's time, right?
Sure,
Like we're
okay.
trying to get through if there's something that's substantive that is incorrect, I think that that's really worth addressing. I did want to say, although Larry, are you there? Or are you just leaning back in your chair? I can't tell. I don't see him. Okay, well, when he comes back, I want to talk to him about this section. Okay, so this one, so in Young, you understand the public transit one, right? Why we included it?
Yep.
Okay, next one. Clarify, what did you want us to clarify?
So you're saying here, am I muted? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So here's so bike ped mitigation was identified as an area of future study, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to study that, right? It's a future study, but you thought this studying bike mitigation is not good enough to closure Churchill. That's what you're saying.
Yes, and I think this this bullet has suffered from being made too short. I will concede. So I think what Keith and Phil and I were trying to say was that
No, don't make it longer.
well, but because it's not clear, you don't understand what the reference is.
No, it's a clear one, but it's just like, you can simplify this thing. You say like blah, 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 and this. Like, can you make it a little better? Like, don't make it
And
longer.
Young, I'm really struggling to understand what you're.
Okay, so here is so you basically you're saying the bike ped mitigation, the future study of a bike ped mitigation is not good enough reason to close Churchill permanently. But isn't this all of these reasons that it's not closing for Churchill permanently? So why are you saying
The
permanently?
reason that so this is why I think it needs more language. The reason that we didn't think it was sufficient was because it didn't cover the fact that there may be mitigations needed on roads not identified that are now going to have more traffic. So as an example, if
Okay.
you're putting more cars on Embarcadero, just as a function of
I
diverting.
understand, Lydia, just before you say this, but isn't all of these reasons to not to decide permanently close Churchill? So why you qualified in this particular item?
Okay, so you're saying remove this part of the sentence?
Yeah.
By the way, I agree with the way it's written, just so that for the record.
Keith and Phil, do you care if we remove this part of the sentence?
I'd like to make just one comment. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually I do, because this, again, we're trying to articulate our rationale. And
But isn't
this
this
is a
whole
key
section
issue.
of- yeah.
I think you're
sorry.
better off modifying insufficient or
Yep, I agree.
or incomplete maybe, or
Yeah.
not sufficient information.
Right.
I think you still need to justify that, even if you say incomplete. Why do you
So
believe
we
it's incomplete?
incomplete on the basis of incomplete information. Because that's really what we're talking about.
Or you could say more information is needed
Yes.
to recommend, and I would use the word recommend, not decide, by the way, to permanently close Churchill.
Okay.
Or not.
I think so. I mean, I still think insufficient is the right word, right? Hold on.
This is why we're going to be meeting for 2 more weeks.
Yeah, I hope not, but
Hopefully one more.
I know. But this was insufficient to be able to. What was your suggestion? I'm sorry. I'm getting tired and I'm losing my. I have short-term memory
The
issues.
available information was insufficient to be able to make a decision.
Felt the available.
I just have a thing with between the word decision versus recommendation, which is, and what
Sure,
we're doing
but
here
okay.
versus, that's all.
Dave, agree, but the something was lacked sufficient information.
Yeah, but and it okay, to be able to make a decision. There.
Okay, so
Oops.
I'll ask you a question. When I read this, so it was inefficient. You have to specify. So what could have been sufficient? I mean, you don't have to write it down. Just so my understanding, what would be the sufficient?
We already have them. So
Okay.
in Young, those are in the suggested areas of future study. They're there.
Yeah. So then you're reiterating that.
In Young, this is our section explaining
okay,
why at
let's
the
move
time
on.
of vote we could not vote. So this is not, it's not saying it's not discussed elsewhere. We're describing that we couldn't vote because of these things. And these are the main reasons why, right?
Okay, let's move on. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay, but I just want to I want to make sure you understand.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
on this one, this is
Can you say available traffic information?
available traffic information, sure. Traffic big T or little t?
Little t.
Okay. Okay, this one, yes, it's a repeat, but because of what we just explained, we're putting it in future mitigations, but it is also the reason we could not vote with you. So that's why it's here.
Okay.
Specific impacts to school operations are not evaluated. I'm not sure what you,
So why is the additional potential traffic safety mitigation remains unknown?
so as an example, if the trucks now can't come out on Churchill and they have to make a wide turn on some new intersection that we don't know, you might need to put up a bollard to protect bikers. In other words, without understanding how those movements are now impacted, you don't know what either safety or traffic improvements might be
No, we're
needed.
talking about the school specific impacts. to the
Yes, but you're
school
talking about the
operation.
school's operations were not evaluated. So if now those things are getting rerouted somewhere else, right? That's what that means.
Well, why, well, again, this is like.
And yeah, this is us clarifying why we didn't vote for it. Not that you have to agree with it.
Okay.
Okay.
No, but like, I'm just saying, you know, you mentioned about the school bus, you mentioned about the truck, and then like, I'm not sure if that's, you know, that could change over the time. They could change, like when there's construction, there will be a
Yeah,
lot of
so
trucks.
it
right?
remains unknown. That's why we couldn't vote for it, because it remains unknown.
But
to
you
us.
will never know, because there might be a construction, might not be a construction. You never know. Anyway.
I'm not sure what you're, so I hear you being really passionate about this section, but at the end of the day, like we're just trying to write what the minority felt at the time that they voted. And so,
Well, yeah. So I'm very passionate because I think it's unfair because I don't have my saying passionate about that, why I'm having another section about, majority report, right? And that's why I'm unfair. And I try to also understand, right? And just feel like, you're making tons of like list of things that, maybe your idea is it's significant, or you maybe put a lot of significant, but for me, it all goes into future traffic studies and we're going to spend, we will know. So anyway, that's my, I'm very vocal at this point. Anyway, let's move on with my comments.
okay.
Churchill closure.
Just for clarifications.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know where the mitigations show how the traffic would be, how the traffic impacts are mitigated. I haven't seen that. I might have forgotten.
Yeah, that was at the top of the report. We have the,
Oh, those mitigations, got it. Okay.
right. Mhm.
Okay, you want to put this in here?
I want to put what?
This sentence, it's like really needed here.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, resolve.
Okay.
So the
The title is a second reason why we didn't vote with you is because we have concerns about the Embarcadero grade separation.
But it's already grade separated.
Yes, but did you read what we wrote?
Yes.
Okay, so we have concerns that you're proposing adding a lane to Alma that could cause other traffic impacts that were not looked at. We are concerned about if that has to be replaced at some point, you've now reduced the redundancy of the network by no longer having Churchill as a place to cross.
Okay. So I think the title is confusing because title is the Embarcadero grade separation enhancement, all right, for the traffic study, from the traffic study. So when I read it out, anyway, it's from the traffic study, right?
It's from the traffic study and all of the discussions that we've had this whole time. So, I mean, Carrie, again, per your suggestion, you wanted to be able to look at the minority position and read the headings and understand the reasons very quickly. So why did the minority vote this way? Additional traffic information needed. Embarcadero grade separation, we could put concerns if you want here.
Okay, it's fine.
Partial underpass study, if we want to do that.
Okay, okay.
Instead of saying grade separation, would bridge be better?
Yes.
Yes and no, because one part of it is about the Alma Street Bridge, which is part of the Embarcadero grade sep, and we have to be able to kind of explain that. And the second one is about the entire grade separation itself, meaning the entire structure. It's like, I don't think we can just say the bridge.
It's okay. It's okay. Just resolve it.
Well, no, but I want to address what Keith said because he's on the minority, right? Keith, does that?
To me, when I look at that, I don't think, if someone showed me a picture of that, I'd say that's the Embarcadero Bridge. I wouldn't say that's the Embarcadero grade separation.
Okay. Phil, you all right with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I also want to call it grade separation bridge, if that do you think is more accurate.
I think fine. Embarcadero Bridge is fine.
Okay.
You could call it the Embarcadero Rail Bridge in case someone thinks there's another bridge on Embarcadero.
Well, but actually one of the issues is about the Alma Street Bridge. Which
Oh,
is,
yes, where it's not just a rail bridge.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, In Young, this was a good piece of feedback, I think, as described in the main report, is what that is. Significant iteration of the partial underpass design was cut short, and key stakeholders, particularly from the school and bike community, weren't able to fully participate in design. So this is, again, how the minority felt about what happened.
Do you want to qualify? I guess the whole thing is.
The entire section is
thing,
qualified, yeah.
okay.
Nadia, it happens for everyone though, right? Not just the partial underpass.
I don't know that that's true. I think you may feel that way, Tony, but I don't know that that reflects Greg or Larry or Dave's position on that. So Carrie and I had this discussion as well, and we decided to play it safe. We're just putting it as part. I mean, in the end, this is This is not meant to describe what everyone, this is why we didn't vote, right, with you guys. So that's what this is. You may also have agreed with some of these things, but
I'm good with it.
okay. In
Eh,
Young, that one that I is, again, that's
Yeah.
because this is our opinion, right?
For
Okay,
sure.
so. The design iteration of the partial underpass alternative, that's what the sentence is about. That's what that is.
Okay,
And that was Keith said it, okay. The full stakeholders are the stakeholders that we just talked about above, the bike and school and bike community.
Okay.
Geographic equity is basically, we were trying to talk about the fact that the cars are getting diverted to different geographic areas. And so we tried to come up with a word that sounded more neutral than it's pushing the problem elsewhere.
okay.
Larry, this is your edit. And I'm fine with, we did have, so technically when we voted on that, on this thing, we voted that if there's a partial underpass, actually, no, that's not the right notes for that. Never mind. I'm fine taking the sentence out if Phil and Keith are. I think you're muted, Larry. Larry, you're muted. Keith and Phil, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the majority doesn't agree with that, then we should take it out.
Yeah, okay, I'm good with that. Let's take it out.
Good, thank you.
Yep. Again, in Young, we just felt it was too permanent of a decision to take out, to make this decision now. That's why we have that there. Because with the other alternative, let's say you build a viaduct, you can always come back and do something else. But if you close a crossing, you can't reopen it. That's the difference.
What can you do after you build a viaduct?
You can go
demolish
back and build an
it?
underpass. You can, you're still keeping a something there, but if
You're
you,
saying, you're saying if you close it, reopen it, it was extremely difficult.
you can't basically.
You can, but if you have a viaduct, you can demolish the viaduct and do something else.
And as long as you're building, yes, you can do something else, but you can't, once you've closed, you can't, there's nothing, you can't touch it any further.
Sure, I'll
Well-
disagree to that you can always do a grade separation, not have a crossing.
But you can't reopen the crossing.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you. For
Yeah,
that.
and when you say you can't, what you really mean is the FRA and the CPUC and people are not going to let us.
Right.
Won't have at
CPUC.
grade crossing.
Yeah, and we did put that
I
in
think you
there.
mean under existing law. You can certainly imagine pretty easily a different world where you could reopen it.
Actually,
That world
you can't.
hasn't existed for a long time. and
It-
never likely to exist.
in the 150 years of the railroad, it hasn't existed because essentially when the railroad was built, all streets were at grade crossings. And then over time, they basically eliminated them for safety reasons. And they don't put them back. They're mostly because they're driven completely by safety. And as Pat Lau would tell us, the safest crossing is one that doesn't exist.
okay, it's fine.
Right.
If it's a law, I follow.
So I wanted to go back to
Nadia? Oh, sorry.
yeah, where we left off before, because Larry, you had walked away, and I just wanted to this goes back to the discussion that we were having before. And since we removed it from the other sections, we could remove it from here as well. This was the based on the information available sentence. So this was sort of a carryover of that. Phil and Keith, are you okay removing that? Because
Sure.
that's not their opinion, so we'll take those out.
Fine.
Okay.
Keith
Oh,
and
yeah.
Sue.
Can you put it back? I didn't catch it before you
Oh.
deleted it.
So, well, actually, we don't really get to vote because the majority said that was not what they felt, and so they took it out of their other section. So this is just a repeat of that.
One second, let me.
Mhm.
Yes, I agree that you should. If they don't like it, we should take it out.
Yep. Okay. I wanted to head back up to this section.
There is one more thing about the study, my comment. I think the last
Which
one.
study?
Traffic study or something. There, at the bottom?
Yeah, we'll go back down. I'm just going back to where we were before Carrie left. So I want to go back to this table and then this paragraph. So putting aside the conversation for the table for a minute, because it's already 6:20, so we're definitely going to run over to another meeting. I want to make sure that we're able to discuss this sentence or this paragraph. And Dave, it seems like this is the one that you thought was deleted. And so I don't know how it got lost, but I thank you for putting it back in, because I do see that it was in the other one. I'm not quite sure what happened.
I don't know either, because the one I looked at from Sarah that I opened up did not have it in there.
Yep. I don't know what happened when we were, when I went through and accepted some of the minor edits, I may have hit the wrong thing, and that's why it disappeared. So I'm fine that we put it back in there. I want to make sure everyone's okay with it. So everyone take a read. It's this section in pink.
That's fine.
Yep, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I do think the part about not appropriate reasoning is a little cheeky, but if nobody else objects, then okay.
Yeah. But this is the majority's opinion, so I'm not, you know,
I
that's how
know,
you guys
but
feel. I'll let you.
We haven't had this sort of like, this is why your argument is flawed part of it.
Yeah,
I
I don't like
would
that
be
very
more
last
comfortable without that very last sentence as well.
yeah, I agree also. That now that I look at it again, that's unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree.
It's inflammatory, actually.
Yep.
Well, I think the first part of that sentence should stay in, because that's our reason. This is piling speculation upon speculation.
But we always say it's speculation. That saying speculation on top of speculation is just
Yeah, you have
inflammatory.
speculates here.
So if
I think we need another sentence though, because you can't just leave that very
Yeah.
first sentence by itself. We have to kind of draw a conclusion of why we're saying it in the first place. So Larry, do you have a suggestion?
Mhm.
I mean, if you took out speculates from the first sentence and then says the majority doesn't agree with this speculation, I would be happy with that.
No,
And speculation is a strong word, and if you use it too much,
well, it's a strong word, but
Yeah,
that's
okay. It's actually a pretty rancorous word. And it's almost feeling politically partisan. And I don't think we're trying to do that.
well, that's what people say about their opponents always.
Well, hopefully we're not all opponents. We can disagree, but we're not.
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't have this kind of
How
language
about if we
where,
said the
this is why
minority
you're.
also?
Yeah.
What if
I
we
mean-
said the minority also believes?
I think it's sort of factual that the mitigations might increase and the costs will increase, and it's technically it is speculation upon speculation, right? I mean, it's accurate.
How about this? Minority also believes, but change that first speculation. And
Okay.
then say, the majority, second sentence, the majority believes. This is piling assumption upon speculation.
It's still pretty harsh.
Well, we could have a harsh feelings, but it's not in the majority report, so.
What's wrong with the last sentence just saying the majority believes this is speculation?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you clear that you think. Go ahead.
One of my problems with your reasoning is that you have a two-step process. The first one is there might be need for additional mitigations. And then without any proof, you're also saying that this might lead to increased costs. And I want to get across the idea that that you're engaging in a double conditional.
Yes, so it's accurate.
Although claiming that
So
additional
is that an
mitigations,
accurate characterization? Is that what you're saying, Tony?
No, just the math is accurate. I mean, just I'm not saying it's reflective of what we feel. I'm just saying it's.
Greg, do you want to take a shot at this?
I I especially don't like the not appropriate. It may be how Larry feels. We've had a very collegial tone up to this point in the whole report. And I don't really want, I'd like to keep it that way.
Thank you,
And me
Greg.
too.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess the majority believes this is piling speculation upon speculation is not bad. But the last part, I would really rather not have in the report.
Greg, you're okay with saying majority believes this is piling speculation upon speculation?
Yeah, that's okay.
It's good for me.
Tony and Larry, and In Young, does this work for you?
Okay with me.
Yep.
Larry?
Yeah, I suggested it.
Okay, just sorry, I've lost track at this point.
I've got to get to my dinner and my high school orientation soon, so I hope that we can wrap up.
We're
Yeah.
almost there.
I just
no.
want to reiterate that, the traffic studies and the things that are done to this point are, like at this preliminary stage, that is the appropriate level of things that are done. So, as we move along, additional studies or, details are looked at. So, having some of these facts not known, that's why the decision is hard, but that's the typical process for this large infrastructure projects.
Mhm. You guys were supposed to come back with different language because Tony didn't agree with this. I didn't see any.
I think safer is a better word.
So safer experience, is that?
No, a safer experience.
Okay. Does that work for you guys?
It's important to Greg, so
This is the most important reason for me voting. And I guess Tony and I disagree whether it's better for pedestrians.
Yeah.
But certainly for cyclists, I'm quite certain it's better.
Yes, for cyclists, it's better, not for pedestrians. But I think it's safer for both.
Well, then maybe we should just say that. That's okay.
Okay. Okay, that leaves this dangling chart, which I can come back to in a minute. I think the
Nadia?
Yeah.
I thought we agreed that Rippon was gonna, Rippon told me that page 49 of the traffic report had some text we could put in there.
Oh yeah, can we find page 49 of the traffic report? Hold on. Ugh, hold on. I'm not at my computer. I have all these things tabbed and saved on my thing, so my apologies in advance. Let's see, fact sheets and matrix. And then I think the traffic study is.
No, it's got its own
Oh.
traffic section. You have to
Thank
go up
you.
to the menu.
Not
Not in there.
Here?
I think you have to go way up to the top menu. Left, yeah, bars, yep.
Thank you. Resources?
I think so.
Traffic.
Yeah, there you
Phew. Okay, page 49.
go. Mm-hmm.
Page 49. Okay. So this is the paragraph that explains that chart.
Correct.
Okay, let's see it in the site here.
Put it under below for now. That's all right.
Yeah.
It doesn't look right. I wish.
So actually all that language above that provides for the explanation on each of the intersections. This one provides for a general like traffic signals and warrants additional improvements.
I mean, are you guys married to the idea of having to have this traffic thing, or are you willing to just say the traffic report on page 49 has the following that proves
I'm
that?
fine just saying the traffic report shows it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the people don't go and look at the traffic report. If this
Right,
is,
but that in some ways makes your words more powerful. So if you want to write in words what you want to say, then you should just put those words in there, right?
no, but I think that you have instead of you just saying the words, you need a table, right? Like
Right,
in the
but this
previous
image,
table.
as we discussed, is misleading because people who don't understand that where you only have a stop sign, that's why you have an F and you're going to A. And that's hard to understand from here.
That's why you specify with the words, like you did in the previous table. You explained
Okay,
table one,
right.
table two.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay personally moving the table. But I'm not sure this paragraph
Yeah, probably not.
is not complete enough.
Or we can just have more detailed information regarding the improvements that changes the level of service is present in the traffic report.
You want to do this now because it's 6:30. I
No.
could try to
I
find
need to leave
something.
in about a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're definitely having a meeting next week. Hopefully by next week we can discuss this, and then I'll send out a memo. The main thing I need you to look at is the executive summary that was sent out, which it has one small edit which reflects the voting correctly. So hopefully we will not have a 3-hour meeting next week. We should be able to get through all of it. And that also leaves Tony. You wanted to discuss something about your removed alternative or something. I will make sure that that's on my list for next week.
Thank you, Nadia.
I do want to warn you, 2 weeks from today, I am totally unavailable.
Okay. Sounds good.
Lydia, I just page 20. I think I said it's okay, but I read it again, and then the 2 negation in there, right above Embarcadero grade separation. Yeah, that sentence, the fact that church closure incorporates traffic mitigation does not mean that closure would not impact. Well, can we simplify these 2 negation? I mean,
Keith, you want to take a stab at that? Or how about I'll make a note and we'll do it for the next meeting? Okay.
because I made a comment and then we just I agreed on it, but then I read it again. It like kind of,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
All right. Almost there, guys. Sorry, this is so confusing, and thank you for your patience. I will accept all of the edits that we made today with your permission. Is that okay for me to accept all the ones we made today? And I will send that out for the group.
Yes,
Yes,
I
please.
just had 2 small ones.
All right, Tony, I'm going to ask you to hold them because we're over time, and Larry already signed off and folks have to go. I can hear, I think it's Greg's kids.
Oh, sorry, I'll mute.
That's
I was
okay.
going to say that we also have to increase the number of accidents in Palo Alto by 1, unfortunately, but I'll email you that.
Yeah.
Can I give you my 2? It's just grammar.
What page?
It's on page 21 on my sheet. Is off the impacts.
Okay, thank you.
And in number 5, it says, given the impacts to the overall project will, right?
Eventually will be needed.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, line 2. Second line.
Make it eventually will be needed.
Yeah, something like that.
Thank you.
And just specify this study as a traffic study.
It's right here in the main bullet. These are sub bullets to the fact that a new traffic study is needed. So I think it's implied.
Okay.
But I'm happy to put in traffic studies for clarity.
You need a space there.
Yep, thanks.
All right, done.
Okay, almost. Everyone okay removing the public opinion section because it didn't exist in the other one?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay, all right. I'll send out a memo with what we are missing, and almost there, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Okay.
All right, good night.
Ciao,
Bye.
Bella.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bella.